Recording. There we go. We recorded this summit just for, we'll be posting it online to make it available to others afterwards. So take it away to our host, Cara Wilson.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Empathy Summit, Exploring Empathy Circles. I am Cara Jean Wilson, your volunteer host for today. I am a regenerative leadership coach, speaker, and curator of the Cara Method, a framework designed to help humans of all ages lead with clarity, emotional intelligence, and connection. I use a lot of Empathy Circle in that. Today's summit isn't just about learning, it's about experiencing. Empathy Circles offer us a way to slow down, listen fully, and build the kind of trust that transforms not just conversations, but communities. Whether you're here to explore, reconnect, or recharge, you belong. Your presence is powerful. So take a breath. Let yourself arrive, and let's begin together. As we get started, please note that we are recording the summit for educational and promotional purposes, and the video recording will be posted on social media. The feedback form is also in the chat, so please submit a feedback form so that we can have your email and stay in touch. Please feel free to write your comments in the chat. On behalf of the Empathy Center, I'd like to welcome you again to the Empathy Summit. Today's topic is the foundational empathy movement, Empathy Circles. The Empathy Center's mission is to build an empathy movement and to raise the level of mutual empathy in the world through education and community initiatives. Before we dive into today's session, I want to take a moment and share some love and lift up the incredible people and partners behind this work. The Empathy Center and the Empathy Circle community extends deep gratitude to all of our past sponsors and partners. Your generosity makes this movement possible. You can view partner lists and explore opportunities to join as a sponsor in the link in the chat. And of course, a massive thank you to our volunteers, the one behind the scenes making these summits flow with heart and intention. This event is free because of your time, energy, and unwavering care. Since November 2024, we have dedicated a full year of empathy summits to exploring empathy circles as a core practice of the global empathy movement. What began as a simple method for listening has become, for many of us, a transformational way of relating at home, at work, in the world. As this year of exploration rounds out, we're excited to expand into broader conversations, deepening and advancing the movement while keeping the empathy circle at its core. If today sparks something in you, if you're curious, moved, or just ready to be a part of something regenerative, you're invited. Join the Empathy Circle community. Join the movement. Let's co-create the next chapter, one micro moment of presence at a time. Thank you for being here. Let's make this summit meaningful, and when it's done, share what you've grown from it far and wide. It is now my pleasure to introduce the founding director of the Empathy Center, Edwin Rutsch. Edwin is also the developer of a long-term evangelist of the Empathy Circle practice. Over to you, Edwin.
Thanks, Cara, and thanks again to our volunteers and for everyone taking part and joining us in this summit. Really excited to be promoting and working on building this empathy movement, and the Empathy Circle we see is a core practice of the empathy movement. And I have a slideshow which I'm going to show here. And it's going to be very quick. I just have less than 10 minutes to for my part of the presentation. Sort of doing a filler here to get on the 15-minute mark here for each of our participants. So the title of my talk is Empathy Circles, a Practical Method for Exiting the Drama Triangle. And because of all the confusion and recent criticisms of empathy, I've been really focusing on empathy definition projects. I'm creating a project to define empathy in an easier to understand way. And I've done a presentation on holistic empathy, and that was in one of the previous presentations that I did, kind of explaining the model. And then I've also done a presentation on comparing that model to the current, very kind of the popular, and I would say inaccurate cognitive affective concern empathy model that's kind of been created by academics. I find that it has a lot of real problems and that we need an easier to understand model for that. So I've also done a presentation about that. And I'm now working on how does this holistic empathy model address the criticisms? If you've been just watching the media and the various online papers, there's been multiple books out that are critical of empathy, and I'm wanting to address those criticisms with this holistic empathy model. And in short, the model has four components. There's basic empathy, deeply listening and sensing into another's experience. Self-empathy, deeply listening and sensing into your own experience. And imaginative empathy, where we kind of imagine ourselves in different roles and we sense with our imagination, which is, I think, different from basic empathy. And holistic empathy, how are we in a community and the empathy level within that community. And what I'm wanting to compare or kind of talk about is the drama triangle compared to the empathy circle. So I don't know, you may have heard of the drama triangle, and this is a sort of a model that I have in the back of my head. So just for when I kind of see different relationships, you can sometimes see how these relationships fit into the drama triangle. And it's really a good model for how conflict works. And what I'm finding is that a lot of the criticisms of empathy are actually that fit into the drama triangle. They're saying that empathy leads you into the drama triangle. And I think that's completely inaccurate, that it's actually empathy and holistic empathy and the empathy circles that actually take you out of that drama triangle and bring you into, connection, positive, constructive connection. So I'm going to just kind of quickly kind of whiz through this. So in the drama triangle, this was created by Steve Karpman, I believe is his name, in the 60s already. And it has, there's three roles in this model. There's the persecutor. And I also mentioned that so many of the criticisms of empathy kind of fit into this drama triangle model. And by kind of showing how those criticisms fit into this model and then how empathy is the exit, I think we can really address a lot of the criticisms of empathy. And so the model says that there's a persecutor who is, judging, blaming, controlling, dominating, a victim. And there's a victim, the person who, the persecutor is, kind of criticizing, and the victim feels powerless, stuck, mistreated and oppressed. And then there's the rescuer who tries to fix, tries to save the victim. So a quick little scenario is that, a father comes home, the son, he sees a bunch of dishes in the sun and a lot of dishes in the sink, and the son was responsible for, keeping the dishes clean. And he says to his son, why are all these dishes here? You're just lazy, starts criticizing the son. So he's like the persecutor and the son is the victim in this case. And then the son, just feels, kind of put down, criticized. And then the mother in this case, tries to fix it and says, oh, he's been busy, he hasn't had time to really, kind of clean the dishes, I'll help, I'll clean up the dishes. And then the son says, to his father, oh, you're always so critical of me. You just have this nasty attitude and you're always putting me down. So in that case, the son, who was the victim, is sort of lashing out back at his father, the persecutor, and then the roles in the drama triangle change. So in this case, the son becomes the persecutor and the father becomes the victim because he's being criticized by his son. And this drama triangle, you can take a lot of different scenarios and put it into this sort of dynamic that happens. And actually, the empathy and the empathy circle is actually the exit from this, in the sense that if the father comes and is critical of the son can be empathic towards the father, right? He can say, "Oh, I hear you're just really upset that I didn't do the dishes," and he can just listen to the father, and the father would maybe express some more of their frustration, and then like, "Oh, I had a really hard day," and then so the son reflects, "I hear you have a really hard day, and that it's been really difficult for you," and then it's the son's turn to speak, right? Or he would be speaking, and then well, he would be then kind of sharing. He says, "Well, when you criticize me like that to the father, that I feel really put down." And then the father would reflect back, "I hear you feel really put down," and this creates an actually takes everybody has responsibility in this in the empathy circle in this situation, and you kind of can work your way out. The wife or the mother would then be able to talk, and they would be able to talk about their issues. So I'm going to jump forward real quick here to a sample of the empathy, this model where we have Paul Bloom, who's against empathy, says empathy is biased. We are more prone to feel empathy for attractive people and for those who look like us or share our ethnic or national background. So he's saying, in terms of the drama triangle, the persecutor is, listening to someone else, and then the person who's not being heard is the victim. And then there's the whole dynamic that happens from that. And then another person from the sin of empathy says, empathy feeds the competitive victimhood mentality that is rampant in our society. In an empathetic society, victimhood confers vulnerability. So he's again saying that this is again, right, saying that the victim, why people want to be victims, because they get power out of it. And again, I'm saying that the empathy circle is actually the exit from that. So this was like a super fast presentation. I'm working on this, and going to be doing a longer presentation. But just wanted to give a quick taste of what I'm working on, and so that's it. Just to keep on time, I'm going to end it there.
Well, thank you, Edwin. I enjoyed that immensely. I love talking about that triangle. That makes me the weirdo, but I'm okay with that. Ha! Now we have the pleasure of listening. Sorry about that. Listening to Maša Blaznik. Maša is a psychologist, independent researcher, and founder of the Empathy-Based Society Institute, an initiative dedicated to promoting the purposeful movement of empathy at both individual and systemic levels for people, animals, and the planet. Over to you.
Cara, thank you for the introduction, and thank you, Edwin, and your team for organizing this. I would just like to check first if you can hear me okay. Great, because there's always this Murphy law that 15 minutes before the summit, my computer didn't recognize my audio settings, so I'm on a different computer. Okay, when I was thinking about my experiences with empathy circles, I realized that there are two main areas that I would like to share with you. So I decided that my today's talk, I will divide into two parts. And in the first part, I will talk about my experience facilitating empathy circles with a group of my old friends. And in the next part, I will talk about how we are integrating empathy circles into the programs that Empathy-Based Society Institute has as part of our mission to cultivate empathy towards animals, nature, and the planet. So compared to most of you, I've been practicing empathy circles for a relatively short time, but I like them from the beginning. And because whenever I would practice them, I would feel this deep connection and sense of presence. And it made me really curious, if I can experience this speaking English, which is not my mother tongue, how would this experience be for me practicing them in my own language? So I decided to invite five of my old friends, and I said, would you like to practice this with me? And what I expected it to last maybe for some months has been now going on for over a year and a half. And we meet every week on Zoom, and we meet once a month in person. And at first, empathy circles were simply a meaningful way for us to connect, to support each other. But then with time, it somehow became actually naturally deepened into more inner work. And we do empathy circles like we normally practice them first, whether we we can share what is alive in us. And every week I also prepare a topic. And only when I was preparing for this summit, I realized that I'm actually choosing topics that encourage self-reflection and self-connection much more than I was before consciously aware of. And these topics, for example, I will list some of them: acceptance, space, courage, shadow, expectations, my body, balance, connection, grace, curiosity, and authenticity. And looking back, I can see how these topics actually drove the direction of our empathy circles and how we were much more also developing this self-empathy. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that our experience was that we would like the feedback stage to be longer time-wise, because we named it integration stage, because it became a space for us to integrate everything that came up for us during the circle as a whole and all the realizations that we had during this process. So in this stage, we reflect on what came up for us. We acknowledge it, we name it, we hold space for it, and in that way, we can integrate experience more fully. For example, somebody may say, I realized I spaced out during the being silent listener. I realized that I did that when this and this such and such topic came up. So I'm realizing there is space, that there are things that I still get to heal, obviously. Or somebody might say, it was hard for me to be a listener today because I felt chaos in my mind. I couldn't listen. I noticed I'm just getting lost. So this stage became like integration stage to realize everything that came up for us during this process. And overall, when we talk about our experience with empathy circles, we shared that this technique, this practice, help us connect more deeply with ourselves, with our values. It helps us grow also our self-regulating capacities. And what I also noticed is that it helps us set healthy boundaries and much more connect with our authenticity. And so these experiences with these empathy circles actually then inspired me to look how can I explore the potential of these circles also as a way to reawaken the connection that we have towards animals, towards nature. But before I do that, I would just like shortly introduce you to the Empathy-Based Society Institute, a nonprofit that I founded last year. And our mission is to drive a cultural shift through empathy education and training for fostering personal growth and systemic transformation. Because we as society, we have normalized violence towards people, towards animals, towards nature, and towards planet. And we have built economic system on this basis. And what we often treat as separate crises, be it wars, be it hunger, animal factory farming, we treat them as individual things, but actually these are just the symptoms of violence. However, we all know we are born with brains hardwired for empathy, but this in itself, it's not enough. Empathy needs to be developed, needs to be strengthened. And that's why, and even in adulthood, I mean, we in this movement, we know that even in adulthood, we can train and develop empathy as adults. Also, as Anita Novak in her book, Purposeful Empathy, so beautifully presented. So, but the key neuroscientific finding that for me in this context is really important is the finding that empathy and violence share a part of the same neural circuit in our brains. They overlap, which means they cannot be active at the same time. When one is active, the other one is silenced. So our idea is the more we cultivate empathy, the more we silence the violence on all levels of society. That's why our mission of our institute is raising awareness about empathy-violence connection, developing and promoting programs for purposeful development of empathy towards self, others, animals, nature, and the planet, and systemic empathy implementations through policy, engagement, advocacy, and think tank initiatives. So now I'm going back to the empathy circles, how they can help us reconnect with animals, nature, and the planet, because our relationship with them has in modern society shifted from coexistence to control, from gratitude to exploitation. And this disconnection carries serious consequences for us on individual and on collective level. And animals and nature bring us back to the present moment. They keep us mindful. And I believe that expanding empathic awareness beyond humans is, in my opinion, the next step in fulfilling our innate potential for empathy. And this is where empathy circles with nature and animals come in, because they help us reawaken this connection. They help us reconnect. And they show us how empathy can become a way of living and being with the world. I will present now practical example how empathy circles with nature can look like. And I will make it on the example of when we go outdoors and connect with nature, let's say. So we take a group of friends or a group of people that we have empathy circles with, go outdoors, and each person chooses a point of connection that they feel called to, whether it's a tree, river, a bird, or some natural space. And each person just sits in that presence, quietly, without analyzing, without expectations, without projection. Just be simply in the presence of another that we choose to connect with. And we can be mindful of others' subtle qualities. For example, their rhythm, their stillness, their vitality. And we can sit also with curiosity. We can ask them what it's like to be you. What do you need? And we don't look for answers in our head. Sometimes we just observe through sensations in our body, through emotions that maybe come up for us, or maybe some changes in the surroundings that we are observing. And then when the facilitator calls us back, we join all together and we do a normal classical empathy circle, with this difference that we speak in first person as if we are that being or that river that we connected with. And we share, I feel, I choose, I need. And in that way, because there are many mindfulness exercises like this in nature, but it's the empathy circle format that really brings a new depth. Because it shifts us from human-centered mindset to mutual recognition of beingness and connection. And so it's not about imagining what it's like to be a tree or a river. It's more about being with tree or a river. So with over time, this practice helps us also to recognize the intrinsic value of life and nurtures more connected, sustainable, and non-violent ways of living. And we can do these circles also with animals, with our pets. We can do that in person. We can do it also with other animals, probably not in person if these are wild animals, or animals that we rear for food, or animals in zoos or SeaWorld. We can connect with planet, with nature. And in doing so, we begin to see much more how very unempathetic our society is towards animals and nature. So it's our choice to reconnect or not, but in that way, we can connect with their experience. So the purpose of this type of empathy circles is to remind us that empathy is not, and in my opinion, should not be limited to human relationships. And it can be a way of becoming present with the entire web of life. And this shift from thinking to actually connecting, from interpreting to experiencing, can really deepen our empathy and empathic connection. And this is the way of living that indigenous people always practiced. So in this way, empathy circles provide a model for cultivating empathic connections with more than human world. And these are the programs and the directions that we are exploring and developing in Empathy-Based Society Institute. Thank you.
Maša, thank you so much. I am going to hold and sit with that integration stage for the empathy circles. Oh, what a powerful practice you shared with us today. Thank you for all that you do at the Institute, for silencing the violence in our brains and communities and building that empathy with the planet.
Mhm.
I now get the pleasure to welcome Veronica Wolfe, an experienced coach and seasoned corporate and community leader. Veronica specializes in the area of emotional intelligence, EQ. Change and transition is on a mission to empower individuals, groups, and teams to foster resilience and empathy while effectively taking action in the face of personal and professional changes and challenges. Take it away, Veronica.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the warm introduction, and I love the last speaker, so I have to gather myself here. So I'm talking today about something that I've been doing for quite a while. Started with empathy circle work many years ago. I don't even remember how long, double-digit years, and met and studied with Marshall Rosenberg, so nonviolent communication and the re-architecting of my brain to be non-judgmental entered my life. And then did some work with Dr. Dick Schwartz, most people call him that, the founder of Internal Family Systems. And I've been hosting circles in New Thought communities, spiritual growth circles, and also now as empathy circles, because I'm also a certified grief educator, something we don't always ask for, but life hands it to us. And so today I'm talking about the foundational empathy circle and then feathering in nonviolent communication and internal family systems, which has had a beautiful healing effect on a lot of the groups that I work with. So we know why empathy matters, right? The world is changing really fast. With change comes loss, and empathy fosters understanding. these circles that Edwin has founded, they create a safe, structured dialogue. And it's on that foundation that I'm going to add these other models that we play with. So when we combine NVC and IFS, the internal family systems, or what's also popularly known as parts work, the empathy circles deepen. They deepen the connection, the self-awareness, and also the compassion and the self-empathy. So we know the empathy circle is a structured, deep listening practice. The core steps, I think most folks here have studied, but I'm going to pop a slide just for anyone who's new. Let's start here and share. So I don't know how large that is. Let me adjust. I think that's as large as I go. Okay. So we gather the group, we assign the roles, we figure out the time, we make sure the reflective listening happens until the speaker feels heard, and then we rotate the roles until all have shared. What I'm adding to that or building on top of that is this piece of nonviolent communication. So the language of feelings and needs. So we're taking the foundation, we're adding the language. It has 4 components. I'll touch on those in a moment. And NVC, just by its beingness, supports clarity, compassion, and mutual understanding. And so the components of NVC include being able to observe, making an observation, stating the facts without, quote, loaded language, without judgment. And that takes quite a while for some folks to get to that place. But in a circle of empathy, people pick up the language rather quickly. That's what we're finding. And not just the language, but the essence and the feeling that goes into living and being in this state. The feeling, can we name it? The closer we get to naming it, the better we are at being able to serve ourselves in the moment, a little self-empathy. And then when we can identify the universal need, as Marshall calls them, universal feelings, universal needs, things that we all have across the globe, then we can make a request for something very specific and positive. And when I took a look at some of the main features of the empathy circles and NVC, it was like boom, 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 boom. Of course they go together, right? So now we're going to go take a look. I'll spend a little more time here on internal family systems. It is a therapeutic method, and it recognizes that each of us, we are each separate ecosystems, and it identifies a core self at the center. And this core self is calm, compassionate, curious, courageous, clear, confident, creative, and connected. I hope you all recognize when you're in that space. We call it in IFS the self with a capital S, or the core self. I see snapping. I'm like, I love that. It's flow state for me. And it's at the center, and then surrounding it are a multitude of other parts. And so the method assumes that there are no bad parts, and it uses gentle, open-ended questions. With access to that self in the center, a person can heal their wounded parts with this method. So by befriending the parts, a person can, the language here is unburden them according to IFS, and it brings greater inner peace and harmony to the system, the ecosystem, allowing the person to be more self-led. And as I'm saying this, I hope you're recognizing like, oh yeah, when I remembered when that happened, I was feeling this, and what I really wanted was some honest communication, right? I was frustrated or I was angry. When we can do that, and then we go down, that's NVC, then we go down a bit deeper with internal family systems. So we go into the parts. And I'm sure you've had these discussions in your head. One party wants to go work out. Let's get to the gym, right? We're on a roll. We want to stay fit and healthy. And another part is like, no, let's just stay home and relax, Netflix and chill. Okay. We all have these conversations going on all the time. And what I learned from Marshall, and I literally re-architected my brain that weekend, is that when we can manage the conversation in our mind, the conversation that flows from us and out into the world with others, is a very different conversation. And so bringing this into empathy circles just felt really natural. So the parts fall under 4 main categories. We've talked about self, kind of the captain of your ship, if you're a sailor or a pilot or something. Managers, I chose a heart icon because they have really good intentions. They want to protect. They want to prevent emotional pain and maintain control. And they do this in ways that are not always in our best growing interest. They make us perform and produce. You may have heard of people pleasing. If you're a people pleaser, that part is the manager for you. And then we have the firefighters, and they come out, they're reactive. Somebody steps on your toe, boom, right? You react. There's no thought process. It is a reaction. And they are also protectors, and they're acting in response to a perceived threat. There are times when they sneakily look like something else. They may look like procrastination. They may look like sitting in front of that Netflix screen for 6 hours. They want to distract and numb and soothe and kind of keep you safe where you are. And then the exiles, the little face down at the bottom of that slide there, they're the parts of ourselves that we deny and push away. And we are less than 100% of our authentic selves. We can be of less service. We don't have as much love to give. We are not all of who we are when we're loaded with exiles that are protected. So the idea of getting into a psychologically safe space in an empathy circle where we are well held, and then using the language of nonviolent communication allows us to go ahead and access this deeper part of ourselves. So when I looked at how do we integrate IFS into the circles, there are several different places where it just naturally comes in. And when we're preparing to speak, so I start circles, we take a few minutes. I ask a few questions. I slow everybody down. And then ask them to notice what's going on inside. What am I noticing in me? What parts are active? And what this does is it brings some calm and clarity, some intentionality, and brings my attention into what's going on inside so I can best serve those that are with me. So what part is activated or alive in the moment? It is a feeling that I want. What is that part feeling? That's going to help me understand what does it need. It also prevents over-identifying with the emotion. Kind of that victim that the drama triangle points to, where the emotion is the only thing that comes out often. In identifying the needs, which is nonviolent communication step 3, what is the true need underneath the protectiveness? I may have gotten flaming angry, but what I really needed was some space, and I didn't know how to ask for it. But the feeling that came up led me to understand what the deeper need was. And then when we are in circle listening to others, the IFS contribution here is to see with curiosity, how do I feel towards this person's parts? What are they doing to my parts, right? We have all these mirror neurons. We can have a party with this stuff. It's actually quite a lot of fun, but it helps us in the moment increase our compassion and reduce the reactivity that can come out of this. And so when I pulled all the parts and pieces together again, and I got empathy circles lined up with NVC, and I added IFS, I went, oh, wow. There is this element of IFS that goes into the internal. What's going on with me? I'm not just listening and present. I am attending to the aliveness inside of me that is also impacting how I listen and how I participate with you in our circle. Active listening across the board. Emotional awareness in IFS, we go more finely tuned and we map that what part. So where somebody might say, what are you feeling in nonviolent communication? IFS will go a little deeper. What part of you is feeling frustrated? Or rather than saying, I am frustrated, we will say, part of you is feeling frustrated. You feel there's a fine difference in that. And it truly helps folks often lay down the load of whatever they're carrying. Emotional awareness, yes, it's encouraged in empathy circles. It's explicitly taught in nonviolent communication. And we map it specifically to parts in internal family systems. The focus on needs is implied in circles. It's part of the design of NVC. And again, the needs are mapped to the parts because rarely are we feeling only one thing at a time. We have those conversations going on. No judgment, non-judgmental presence required across the board. And then the inner conflict work. This is where IFS stands out for me because if we're conflicted when we go into a circle, guess what? We bring that. And we're kind of loaded for bear, so to speak, when we do that. So I suggest that inner conflict work that we take those few minutes before, both if we're doing just an empathy circle or a pure nonviolent communication conversation. But you get that when you are working with the parts in IFS. So to me, this trio is absolutely magical. I have years of working with this. I had to step away from saying, oh, it's just an NVC circle or it's just an empathy circle and explain what we do. And that's the way I put it out there. I call them empathy circles and I explain that we're going deeper for folks that are just familiar with the circle format. But empathy circles give us the structure.
1 minute.
And
Keep going.
nonviolent communication gives us the language of feelings and needs and the mindset for connection and understanding. And IFS gives us the inner lens to hold our experience with compassion and the self-leadership. So together, they help us speak from the heart, listen with presence, and relate to ourselves and others with radical compassion. So thank you. I appreciate your time, your attention, contributions this group is making to furthering unity and harmony and inner peace and world peace, and helping to raise our global consciousness.
Thank you, Veronica. I have looked at NVC and empathy circles for sociocracy and healing grand community, but I loved hearing about leveraging IFS. I heard that healing that community within can impact that community without. And speaking my language, thank you so much.
Need to stop the share.
Oops. Thank you for the reminder. Stop sharing. All right, back to you.
Next, I get the pleasure of introducing Zak Wear. Zak is a longtime Empathy Circle facilitator and trainer and the founder of potluckinaction.com, which is our Empathy Circle app. Zak, what you got to share?
Thank you for organizing, Cara. But it's potluck action without the
Potluck action
in the middle. It's all right. It's all right. No worries. No worries. All right. So let's explore opportunities in chapter organizations and partnerships and empathy circles. You don't have to develop chapters or partnerships for political action, but that's the example we're going to use today. We're going to use it, just go right into the lion's den, and maybe we'll have some fun with it. All right, so saving democracy is our mission. And this is written with examples, discussion, and anecdotes from the United States. Our friends abroad are warmly welcome to share their examples, analysis, and insights for development of future publications or to publish their own. This guide is open source. So we're not covering chapter nor partnership or operations in detail. This is more of an overview of the differences between the two. Most likely, you might be starting a chapter, and this primer simplifies your understanding of what the chapter does. Partnerships take on the tougher stuff down the road. We're running through the most relevant concepts to get you started and still see the big picture of how empathy circles can fit into full spectrum politics. This guide doesn't need to tell you what party to support, what policies to support, nor do you need to agree with all the recommendations or examples. This is about considering concrete steps for building a culture of empathy where it feels good to organize with people who disagree with you. At a glance, you might assume only bleeding heart liberals would be interested in empathy circles. Some of our biggest supporters in our community's history identify as conservatives, vote for Trump, and love the relationships and experiences possible in empathy circles. The campfire of an empathy circle feels warm to a lot of different kinds of people. Can you tell which party the broccoli represents? Circles outperform alternatives in building consensus and compromise. You can observe the accelerated pace of relationship building, personal growth, and the frequency of discovering win-win opportunities in contested environments. This strategy won't magically address all of our society's ills overnight, nor make everyone think the same. There will still be differences of opinion and values. You may observe people do empathy circles for years, but still have competing interests, such as supporting different political parties for the same offices. Chapters and partnerships can help you manage those differences at scale. Difference, for our purposes here, means differences in opinion and action in the political process. This includes strategy, policy positions, fundraising, any activity that ultimately impacts law and budget. The chapter's job is to facilitate a constructive culture and climate where the general public feels empowered to participate in a culture of empathy. Chapters can conduct business and formally incorporate, but its business decisions should primarily support building a community for bonding, relationship building, partnership building, and fun. Where chapters are the home or church, partnerships enable flexibility with complex differences. When people want to take action on a short or long-term basis, they form a partnership. The specific structure of a partnership, like its leadership structure, are irrelevant to us here. Partnerships can be as simple as a handshake and as complex as incorporated nonprofits. You can call it a working group, committee, campaign, project, etc., but calling it a partnership helps illustrate certain concepts, such as forming coalitions with businesses and nonprofits. This is a powerful word in the English language. This word culturally promotes participants into a mindset of mutual power, responsibility, purpose, and respect. Participating in a partnership carries a different mindset from a committee, but choose what works for you. Partnerships could be popular and widely supported by members of a chapter or multiple chapters. The partnership may also be unpopular, or there may be partnerships with competing interests in disagreement with each other. Chapters are the primary incubator for partnerships. This doesn't mean chapters are expected to endorse partnerships, and in general, they shouldn't. You can simply reference them on the chapter website, social media, and emails as something like member partnerships or member projects or project directory or similar language. Now, you might be thinking, but why not use empathy circles to resolve the differences? That's the idea. But resolving certain differences can take months or years, and some differences may never resolve. Partnerships that are allowed to cooperate and compete help protect the chapter from power struggles over mission, strategy, and leadership. Organize stakeholders into appropriate contexts, right, where they can appropriately deliberate, negotiate, and compromise. enables people to pursue missions that are important to them while participating in culture of empathy. Otherwise, they would just pursue their missions outside of the community. And after pursuing different missions, folks can still return to the same chapter families with continued opportunities for bonding and solidarity. So let's do a fictional example here. All right, Victoria Conversations, fictional organization. It's an empathy circle chapter that has operated with distinction since 2015. Their 300 members include parents, students, young professionals, some local politicians, small business owners, and members of the clergy. They hold events every week online and around town. Every year, they host candidates forums or candidates participate in empathy circles instead of a debate-style format. The forums are now a local tradition and is broadcasted on public access television. Their members include Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Greens, and Independents. The chapter's role is to be the family unit and to host a productive culture and climate for forming partnerships. A big topic of discussion at the chapter is money and politics. People across the aisle agree that they don't want billionaires and mega millionaires buying their members of Congress. During one empathy cafe, members presented campaign finance reports showing millions of dollars flowing from Fortune 500 companies to Pablo Matias, the Democrat representing Victoria in the U.S. House. People across the aisle in the chapter were concerned about this. Even Democrats wondered, is he actually serving our interests or is he just working for the donors? Matias agreed to participate in one empathy circle in Corpus Christi. When asked if he is willing to stop taking money from special interest groups and their lobbyists, he declined, claiming, "It's impossible to compete without those donations, but I'll never betray my constituents. I work for you." Weeks later, Matias voted for massive historic tax cuts for the billionaires, even though the vast majority of his constituents opposed the tax cuts. Feeling betrayed, folks had enough. 52 Victoria Conversations members formed the Anti-Corruption Partnership with advocacy groups and other empathy circle chapters across Texas. Their mission read, support candidates at the state, local, and federal level who only accept campaign contributions from the people of Texas. You work for us, not them. The ACP agreed to share resources to support a Democrat and Republican candidate in the primaries. The Republican candidate is Luke Avery, a member of the chapter, and has been leading empathy circles for years. For the Democratic primary, ACP endorsed Sophia Luna from Corpus Christi, a longtime leader of the Corpus Christi Empathy Circle Club. Republican members of the ACP, though, ran into problems with Texas for Life, a 501c4 advocacy organization who just recently started participating in empathy circles. Texans for Life refused to join the Anti-Corruption Partnership due to its endorsement of pro-choice Democrats across the state. As a compromise, pro-life Democrats and Republicans in Texas formed the Pro-Life Partnership here. This new coalition enabled Texans for Life to endorse Luke Avery as part of a separate effort. So right now we got two partnerships, one of them endorsing both of our empathy circle candidates, and one partnership that's just working with Luke Avery here. Unfortunately, Matias wins the Democratic primary. Luke Avery, though, won the Republican primary. Chapter members decide whether to continue supporting the ACP. A number of Democrats choose to support Avery in the general election because they feel overall satisfied with his policies and leadership. Others don't because Avery's pro-life, and they knew ahead of time they weren't going to support any pro-life candidate in the general. So they respectfully move on to other efforts. The chapter continues operating normally throughout the election season. All of a sudden, a group of self-identified neo-Nazis start attending chapter events. They join as members and take steps to form the White Fist Partnership with the explicit goal of instigating race riots in the area. Their leader, Wiley Borg, was convicted of aggravated battery in Houston 8 years ago, allegedly in relation to his white supremacist activities. Chapter members aren't going to be taken for fools. They dealt with this kind of thing before. The chapter agreed long ago that violence is not a valid activity for their family. And they have a process in place to discuss the issue and concludes it has capacity for some extremists to respectfully participate in chapter events, but does not have capacity to safely host a violent offender who now says he wants to reoffend. That's what they tell the Nazis, managing them in short order. Their white fist partnership is void. And if there are continued issues, they will be referred to Corpus Christi chapter, which has more capacity to work with them. Wiley Borg is banned from chapter functions due to the combination of violent criminal history and trying to organize violent activities again. Local chapters are notified of the incident. With the Lion's Den secured, the chapter continues its journeys. Luke Avery moves on to win the general election and is the first trained empathy circle facilitator in Congress. He thanks everyone who supported him in the primary and/or the general election. Sophia Luna congratulates Avery for his victory and prepares another run for the House seat. She told the victorious Sun, "Representative Avery and I see eye to eye on a lot of issues, but my colleague is wrong about a woman's choice. His education policies don't fit our district. I'm prepared to plug holes in the VA and boost well-paid jobs in Texas." In the weeks after the interview, the ACP voted to endorse Luna for the upcoming U.S. Senate seat, with Avery among her first endorsers. Avery, a freshman Republican rep, shocked Washington by endorsing a Democrat to represent Texas in the Senate, bringing national attention to the race. All right. Naturally, the ACP, the Anti-Corruption Partnership, grew in membership. Some other partnerships merged with the ACP. New partnerships sprang up too and went on to develop historic bonds, negotiations, and compromises among Texans. With partnerships, the chapter was able to appropriately navigate a partisan political environment and maintain a constructive culture and climate in the chapter itself. Democrats and Republicans not only found common ground on issues that are important to them, they were able to take political action to get somebody elected to office. A number of Democrats who otherwise would never support a Republican candidate did so in this case, because in their eyes, Avery is financially free to represent them and not outside interests. Thank you. By building partnerships across political parties, chapter members are empowered to hold their elected officials accountable across political lines. The partnerships help members vividly see and engage with what they agree on and find most important. The partnerships enabled smoother collaboration with organizations outside of empathy circle communities. Over time, partnerships form and merge to flex with real-world conditions. Our members operate in a manner that supports the trend of turning special interest groups into mutual interest groups. You do not have to plan on building partnerships. Focus on building your family unit. With time, demand, and desire, you'll know where your business unit fits in your community. Thank you very much.
Zach, that was amazing. I love that you went right into full spectrum politics with empathy. I think that we can all agree that feeling good while organizing with people who disagree with you is foundational for scaling a movement like the empathy movement. Being able to move from individuals to chapters to partnerships so that we can bridge all of those divides. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. All right.
I next get to welcome Lou Zweier. Ooh, I just butchered your last name. I apologize for that. I'm not even going to try again.
It's Zweier.
Zweier, thank you. Lou is an Empathy Circle facilitation trainer and developer of the Empathy Circle facilitation. Lou has been holding empathy circles, training empathy circle facilitators, and working with Edwin Rutsch since 2016. He's a former executive of the California State University System and a current member of the Empathy Center Board of Directors and a principal partner at the Authentic Leadership Center. Take it away, Lou.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about a community project, a community listening project. I often call it a public listening project in my local town. It's called Petaluma Conversations. And the purpose of it is bridging political and social divides through deep listening. And we use the empathy circle practice as our method of working. Although I don't call it empathy circle, mostly because we were trying to attract people from both sides of the spectrum, and I was a little worried that conservatives might feel like empathy's squishy. So I say we're using a mutual listening practice, although the materials that I distribute does have a link to the Empathy Center. So, people that explore it more will discover that connection. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, I do this with my partner, John Crowley, who, in the context of the Aquas Community Foundation. And Aquas is a nonprofit that is run by John Crowley, and the way Petaluma's conversation got started was John is a very well known community organizer in Petaluma, and he came to me and said, this was like, I don't know, 7 years ago now. He came to me and said, there's this terrible controversy that's going on around a public art project in Petaluma. And people that I've known for a long time have really different opinions about this. And it's really shocking how mean they're being to each other, and attacking each other. And he wanted to know if there was some way that we might be able to have a discussion about it that was more connecting. And so I said, sure, I'd be glad to help. And so we had an evening where he invited all these people. And I brought actually facilitators in. Edwin and Bill came for that night, and a couple other people that I trained. And we had the evening, and people who were very mean to each other online, sniping and judging and everything, they actually listened to each other. They listened to each other as a result of doing the circles. And and like one person said to the other, I understand you much better, and you're much nicer in person than you are online. And so this started John and me together creating this thing called Petaluma Conversations. Let's see here. So our purpose, and when we gather people, so we do Petaluma Conversations seasonally. So we usually do it once in the winter, and then spring, and then summer and fall, and we do it in a 4-week series of conversations, a week apart. And we gather people at the beginning in a big circle, and we talk about our purpose and the principles on which we're operating, and we describe the empathy circle process. So we say explicitly that our purpose is to come together, to listen to each other, to get to know one another, and understand each other, even if we don't agree with each other. And you can see a picture. This is after we've broken up from the big circle. We break into small circles, empathy circles. And we do this in the library. And then why do we do this? We tell people we do this to connect with and learn about people in our community who are different than we are. So we're very explicitly, our purpose is to help people connect across differences. To be heard about whatever is important to each of us, and to build, and this is really key, and I talk to the facilitators about this all the time. People are organizing the project. We're not just trying to hold public listening sessions. That's part of it, but we're also trying to build resilience in the community for responding to difference, with curiosity and understanding, rather than what typically happens, which is, people arguing with each other, people trying to convince each other, people analyzing each other, and demonizing each other. So these are the principles, and we read these at the opening of every session. So everyone wants to be heard and understood. That's one of our basic assumptions. We are here to understand each other, not interrogate, argue, or try to convince each other, or to problem solve. And while political problems do need problem solving, and actually all kinds of conflict actually need problem solving, mutual understanding is a very important step before trying to solve the problem. And that's what gets skipped over most of the time in conflict resolution, is mutual understanding. And so we say explicitly that Petaluma Conversations is just about mutual understanding. It's about just trying to understand each other and get to know one another. We're not here to try to solve problems with each other. Another important principle is that, and it's important to remind people of this, that showing understanding for someone and what they're saying is not agreeing with them. And sometimes people are reluctant to reflect back or to sit with someone who's very different than them because they're worried that it means that they agree with them, or that they're doing some kind of agreement. And so we say that explicitly. And then another principle is, and this is kind of, instead of the problem solving, we trust that people will find their own solutions or decide to change their minds or not as they see fit. And that the mutual understanding that happens during the conversation, it makes a contributions to people's individual choice about whether they decide to change their mind or not. And so we just try to make that explicit. So then also we say that we're asking people to have the intention of participating with curiosity, which means curiosity about others and what's important to them, and to participate with openness, and that means being open about myself and being open to different points of view. And again, that doesn't mean agreeing with them. It just means being open to hearing them and understanding them. And then honesty, which is saying what's important to you, even if it's different than what other people are saying. So, and that's a really important principle, of the empathy circle, that speak freely. The instructions to the speaker in an empathy circle are say whatever you want. And the idea is speaking freely. And if there's any guidance really in the empathy circle, and this is really important part of the empathy circle dynamic, is the emphasis is much more on listening. So if there's any guidance about what to do in the empathy circle, it's really for the listener. How the speaker says whatever they want, and it's the listener who has to reflect back what they're hearing without judging and without doing the other things that we normally do in conversation, which would be argue, agree or disagree, say what we think. That's reserved for when it's your turn to speak. And then mutuality, following the structure provided, meaning the empathy circle structure, to ensure that everyone gets a chance to be heard to their satisfaction. And that issue of mutuality, that's also really key, because what happens in normal conversation, if you have a group of people, you don't get mutuality. That does not happen naturally. So it's the structure of the empathy circle that really assures that everyone gets a chance to be heard and to their satisfaction. And that's so important for people having a satisfying experience and feeling heard. So this is how we do it. We gather in a large group. Typically, we have somewhere between 15 and 25 people. That's a typical evening. And we meet in a big circle. We do the introductions, which I just did, about all, our philosophy and our principles. And I describe the empathy circle practice. Sometimes we do a demo of what listening is, what reflection is, so that people get a chance to see. And then we split into groups. And we take turns so everyone's heard. These things on this slide are the empathy circle, the pieces of the empathy circle process. And in terms of topics, we announce 2 topics for each evening, usually a local topic, something that's relevant to our local politics or local what's going on in town, and then one larger topic, which could be national, or it could be personal, like what is trust, or something internal. And then we also invite people actually to bring their own topics. We tell people you can bring your own topic, and if there are enough people that want to talk about that, we'll form a group on it. And then we almost always have a no topic group. There are people that show up that just want to talk about whatever's on their mind. And this is an interesting lesson. When we started this, I had an online sign up so that people could say which topic they wanted to talk about or suggest new topics, and they would also say what their leaning is, political leaning. And I would try to form the groups, so that when people showed up, we had mixture of gender and political, and interest and all that. And then, people that sign up don't show up, and then people that don't sign up show up. So that whole planning process just goes out the window. So now I just say, So how many people would like to talk about this? We put the topics on the board, we add ones that people say they want to talk about, and then I say, how many people want to talk about this? And those people stand up, and we form a group with those people and assign a facilitator, and they go off. And so that turns out to work much better than trying to plan it beforehand. Let's see, and I'll say one more. So then we go off into the groups, and they usually do an hour and 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. And then we have them fill out evaluation forms, very simple evaluation forms, 3 questions. What did you like most about tonight? What would you change? And what are you taking away from the conversation? And then we come back into the big group, and there's an opportunity for people to share, how was this for you, and what are you taking away from the evening? And we usually get 3 or 4 people sharing, maybe 5 people sharing their experience. And that's just a way to help people integrate and help the group reconnect as a whole group. Let's see, twice. These are at the end of every year, I usually send out a survey to just get some information about how people are experiencing what we're doing. And this is from 2023. And you can see we have a lot more liberals and very few conservatives. This is something that I'd like to do better, is get a wider political diversity in the group, but it really takes effort to do that. You have to go out to a conservative group and do a presentation and talk what you're about, and then invite them to come. You have to build enough trust that they know about it, and B, that they would trust that they're going to come, and that'll be safe for them to participate in. And then asking these questions, I learned something that surprised me about someone different than me in Petaluma Conversations. Most people did, to some degree. I'm more interested in understanding people who are different than me from participating in Petaluma Conversations. Pretty good results here. I feel more connected to others in my community. So pretty good numbers there. I would recommend participating in Petaluma Conversations to a friend. This I'm really proud of, that almost everyone, while they might have different feelings about what they learned doing it, almost everyone would recommend it, which is really great. And then I proved my listening skills by participating. People felt pretty strongly about that. And then I'm more confident that I can listen to and understand people whose beliefs are different than mine. So this was, a good goal, and people felt more strongly about that. And another interesting thing is a graph that's not in here. I also asked,
1 minute.
thank you. I also asked, did you ever try using the Petaluma Conversations listening model outside of Petaluma Conversations? And about a third of the people said yes. I was really surprised by that. And then these are just some of the topics that we did in 2023. So you can see it's a wide variety of topics, some very charged, and some just more self-reflective. All right. So I was hoping I would have time for questions. I didn't think I would go that long, but I did. So there you go.
Thank you, Lou. Is there a way to have hot conversations that's more connecting? Yes. You can call it empathy circles or mutual listening practices. It's potato. Building that resilience, though, for differences through understanding is such big work. Thank you for you doing that.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
And in answer to the chat, we will be doing an empathy circle at the end of all of our speakers. So check out the links that were shared in there, and then stick around to learn some more. I am delighted to invite our next speaker, Tina Jones. Tina Jones is a highly skilled professional in conflict resolution, holding a master's degree in conflict analysis and dispute resolution. She specializes in training and facilitating empathy circles. Hi, Tina, take it away.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, and I'm very grateful for the invitation to be here today, so thank you. So I'm not going to provide a presentation. I loved all of the speakers before me, the presentations they provided. I'm going to focus on rather more personal talk today. So good morning. Before we begin, I'd like to invite you all just to take a moment to slow your breath and try to breathe together. As I, for one, personally find Saturday mornings kind of hectic and very busy. Feel your feet on the ground. Let your shoulders soften and notice your breath. These are the things I have to remind myself every morning to remember to actually breathe. That might sound silly, but I realized that some of the times in my harriedness that it felt like I forgot to breathe, something that's very innate, something you shouldn't have to think about. But as I've been learning breath work from my mentors like Jana Weiss, I realized that breathing is something that we need to do more of with intent. So I started here because this presentation is about listening, and pardon my voice, is a little scratchy. Listening not just to others, but to ourselves. It's about navigating sometimes those tender, sometimes turbulent spaces where inner world and outer world connections meet. There's a quote by Carl Rogers. When someone really hears you without passing judgment on you, without trying to take responsibility for you, without trying to mold you, it feels damn good. I'll attest to that. Empathy is a special way of coming to know another and ourselves. So today I want to explore how self-empathy, intrapersonal conflict, and nonviolent communication woven into the empathy circle process can help us live that kind of deep listening starting from within. So empathy as a foundation. Self-empathy is more than being nice to ourselves. It is the conscious practice of turning inward with curiosity and care, especially when we're struggling. And I have been struggling. I've learned sometimes the hard way that I can't truly listen to others when my inner world is in chaos. Interpersonal conflict is a tug of war between different parts of myself. It can be loud and exhausting. It sounds like I should have handled that better, battling. I did the best I could because really I did do the best I could in that moment. I'm fine is what I say. I'm fine. Covering over, I'm actually hurting because I was raised to be a strong Black woman, but I don't feel I really had an option to be anything else. When we neglect self-empathy, we risk emotional detachment. Not the healthy kind that allows perspective, but the kind that numbs us to our own needs. And this I've been guilty of doing. I only started my self-empathy journey when I joined this empathy movement, and I started learning more about myself through that. Marshall Goldberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication, reminds us we are dangerous when we are not conscious of our responsibility for how we behave, think, and feel. Self-empathy asks us to take that responsibility, not to shame ourselves, but to honor our feelings and needs as valid. It's the pause where we ask, what am I feeling right now? What am I needing right now? So when I look into a deeper dive into interpersonal conflict as an invitation, it is not a flaw. It's a sign that more than one part of us cares deeply about something. I've come to see my inner disagreements as signals, not failures. As I'm here today, as I felt, frustration of being in pain today, which is a typical day, but I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be able to, do everything just right. But I recognize that my body has other plans sometimes. So, for example, one part of me wants to rest, another wants to prove my worth, typically by overworking. One part of me longs for closeness, another is afraid of being hurt. And I'm learning how to think a little bit differently. In nonviolent communication terms, these are simply different needs vying for attention. When we listen to each other, we listen to each voice within us. Without trying to silence or win, we begin to restore internal trust. You hear the naysayers, you hear the critics. The empathy circle process provides a space for this kind of listening, even with ourselves. With all that noise, it's hard to hear ourselves. So I look at empathy circles as a bridge. An empathy circle is a simple yet profound structure. One person speaks, another person reflects back what they heard. It does not need to be perfect. And a speaker can confirm or clarify until he or she feels heard. Then the roles switch. I love that because everyone gets to feel heard. And feeling heard is very powerful indeed. When we bring self-empathy into an empathy circle, sometimes powerful things happen. This too I can attest to. We can speak from the heart, aware of what's alive in us. We listen not only for words, but for feelings and needs. We receive reflection not as correction, but as companionship, so you're not alone. Over time, empathy circles will help us reconnect with parts of ourselves we've kept at a silence living in silence. That too, I acknowledge. In my own journey, I've experienced moments where someone's reflection uncovered an emotion I didn't know I was carrying. Grief, relief, longing, and in naming it, it felt lighter. There's a quote by Mahatma Gandhi. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. In the same way, I believe self-empathy is the attribute of the strong. It takes courage to forgive ourselves for being human, to allow vulnerability, and to offer compassion to the person in the mirror. So bringing NVC into process. Nonviolent communication gives us a framework to bring clarity to what we hear, both from ourselves and from others. It's built on 4 steps: observation, what actually happens without judgment; feeling, what am I experiencing emotionally; need, what I am experiencing, what I value or need is connected to that feeling; request, what action might help meet that need. When applied in an empathy circle, this framework transforms vague discomfort into clear understanding. Instead of "I'm bad at this," I might say, in observation, when I spoke, I noticed my voice was shaking, like it is a bit now. I feel nervous. Need, I need acceptance and self-assurance. Request, I'd like to pause and take a breath before continuing, like I just did. This is a simple shift that moves us from self-criticism to self-care. And in closing, I'll close with this. Empathy circles are not about fixing each other. They're about being present, fully, openly, humbly, with ourselves and with others. When we blend self-empathy, awareness of intrapersonal conflicts, and the principles of nonviolent communication, we create a fertile ground for understanding and healing. Carl Rogers taught us that empathy is a way of knowing ourselves as well as others. Maša Rosenberg reminded us to take responsibility for our feelings and needs. Gandhi reminded us that true compassion and forgiveness require courage. May we carry that courage into every empathy circle, every conversation, and every quiet moment we have with ourselves. Thank you for listening and being a part of this circle of care. Thank you for listening to me today, and thank you for this opportunity to share a bit of my journey that I'll continue to be on, as I am so grateful to be a part of this family, this culture of nonviolence, this culture of building one another up instead of tearing one another down. Thank you. I'll yield back.
Thank you, Tina, for grounding us, for bringing us back into an intentional space. In hearing you, I felt myself today more deeply. Thank you for inviting us in. Our next speaker is Bill Hiller. Bill is a retired special education teacher who has worked with at-risk children for over 30 years. He's been involved in the Empathy Circle since 2017, and he has co-created the Empathy Circle facilitator training with Lou and Edwin, and has been holding training since March of 2020. He is a member of the Empathy Center Board of Directors. Take it away, Bill.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm going to go a little bit off script. I've had the privilege of knowing Tina for quite a while, and while she might question herself, um, she has nothing to prove to me. Her bravery, grace, and compassion in facing challenges, if I can live up to that, I'll be very happy. So I just wanted to, it's always nice to see Tina. Okay. Well, when I was a special ed teacher, the picture you see behind me is sort of like my home run. It's a lot of work to go and to take these special ed students who had a lot of emotional challenges and also some cognitive challenges to the beach and to enjoy a day at the beach. And so this was a great day for me, and I always like to look at that. One of the epiphanies that I got as a special ed teacher is that many of my students, I was a director of education for suicidal adolescents, and I was part of a special program that basically we had the most at-risk students, at risk of going to jail, being hospitalized, etc. And one of my epiphanies was there'd be a violent act and it would seem to come out of nowhere. And then later on the day, somebody, our leader or psychologist would say, what is the communicative intent of that? And that epiphany told me that whatever you see, just look on television and everybody acting out. They're all trying to communicate. They're all trying to get something across. And so when we could identify, we did our homework. What was bothering that student? They could have not have been fed, or they saw a violent, action the night before. And we then, presented that to them. And if they didn't get fed, we also fed them. That's very important to address the real need. Then the violence went down precipitously. After I retired, I met Edwin at a demonstration, and I could see how the empathy circle had elegantly basically streamlined this process. We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. So when Lou, Edwin, and I were designing the empathy circle training, we prioritized giving people the empathy circle experience of being heard and understood, as well as teaching the structural skills needed to facilitate an empathy circle. This experiential component is crucial because it gives people a baseline feeling of what it's like to be in an empathy circle. This acts as a guide for them when they facilitate circles of their own. As we have conducted these training sessions, we found universally that everyone loves to be heard. We started the Empathy Circle online training in March of 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic. Our first training consisted of doctors, nurses, and medical students who were working in Brooklyn, New York, at the epicenter of the pandemic, where dozens of refrigerated trucks were parked outside hospitals to accommodate all of the people who had tragically died. To say the least, this was a stressful work environment. When we asked for feedback on our training, they answered that even 5 minutes of empathic listening at a shift change could significantly help them through their challenging day. In the 5 years since, we've trained approximately 1,000 people from all over the world. The feedback has been clear. If people listen to others to try to understand them and are listened to and reflected in turn, it has a profound positive effects in all parts of their lives. If you keep up the practice, the positive effects are magnified. And so I'm going to see if show a few slides here. And this is just slides when we kind of stress test the, sorry about that, I'm not very uh, the empathy circles in various environments. We take out the empathy tent. This was at a political action with both left people on the left and the right. There's Lou there talking to somebody. There's Edwin with his back to you, and I'm over on the far left. Um, and I can say at that, this is Big Joe, the biggest, I think so. He's claimed to be 450 pounds. Um, and that's Lou and I laughing with relief that we just didn't die after he just picked us up, one in each arm, and then put us down gently. Um, this is at the free speech rally in Berkeley. This was actually a right-wing rally. Here's the Women's March with Bob, who I see today. Hi, Bob, in LA, obviously more on the left. And this is the XR climate action. Edwin listening to someone who was set up on the street. Okay, let's stop the share. All right, here we go. Okay, several years ago, we had a chance to present our in-person training. The in-person training takes place over 2 days. In addition to practicing our empathy circle facilitation skills, we empathically cook, drink, eat, and engage in empathic small talk. From those trainings, a local empathy circle community was created in Santa Barbara, California, and Phoenix, Arizona. The results were the same. People felt heard, seen, and understood. Those people who came together in empathy are still working hard and using the empathy circle practice in their respective communities. The participants in our latest training were from around the world, fully half of the participants. It included people from Pakistan, India, Turkey, Sweden, and different parts of the United States. These were men and women, people of different ages, religions, and spiritual beliefs, and differently abled people. There was one person who attended while living in a refugee camp. What we learned was that no matter what the trying circumstances they faced, being heard and understood in the empathy circle gave them some relief and hope for the future. And particularly, I had some personal knowledge of the person in the refugee camp, and they came every day and they felt heard and seen. And obviously, that's in great contrast to their experience in the rest of their lives. So that it has a big impact on me. It is impossible to blind ourselves to all the suffering that's occurring all over the world. In addition to the suffering that we see on the news, there are people who suffer in silence, dealing with loneliness, health challenges, and emotional stress. The data is clear. The empathy circle can bring hope and relief even to those in the most dire circumstances. We invite you to join us and heal the world 5 minutes at a time. I'll put the Best Empathy training link in there. You can find out about our free trainings and empathy cafes. And I see I have some time. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, are there? I can't see. No?
Feel free to raise a digital hand so he can see you pop up on the screen if you have a question.
Okay. Oh, here we go. And this is the best empathy. Yeah, oh, I saw that. Oh, I see. Why 5 minutes? Okay, why 5 minute turns? Well, it can vary, but 5 minutes really gives people ample time. I'm sorry, did I miss my cue? Oh, there's Sally. Yes, okay. Go ahead, Sally. Your question? And unmute.
We go. Okay. So I was just, I really like to be able to use this in a classroom, Bill. So what can you give me some ideas of how you did that, like that, and you said, what is that violent act trying to communicate? How did you guys do any kind of an activity with the group to help, or was that just kind of a
Well, this is before I was introduced to empathy circles. So we used a lot of reflective listening techniques, and we used a lot of, others, therapeutic strategies in order to do that. But the goal was the same. in order to listen to the child. Once the student felt heard, then they were empowered and they would use their words instead of their fists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay. So where did the idea of the empathy tent and public events come from? And for that, I'll give it Edwin, do you want to respond to that one? That's your...
Yeah, it's a longer story, but the empathy tent got started at Occupy Wall Street in Berkeley. So it was just when I saw what was happening there, I just had the idea, well, let's take a tent there, and I call it the 100% empathy tent. So they were saying the 99 against the 1%. I say, well, we want to listen to everyone. And I kind of been doing it ever since. That's 2011. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Oh, do we incorporate any types of calming, grounding exercises prior to reflecting? We try to get into the empathy circle. The empathy circle itself creates that. But in the in-person training where we have a little bit more time, we do a little bit of, we play some theater games. Sometimes we do a little short Tai Chi, and, some breathing exercises. Okay, for people out of ADHD, this might be a bit long, maybe one. Right. So obviously you want to, especially if you're talking about schools, are you bringing it into a senior high school class or a kindergarten? The timing is crucial there. And so, yes, you can shorten it as much as you want. I would suggest, for instance, in a kindergarten, if I was going in, I wouldn't teach a lot of rules. I would just say, hey, I'm Bill, the listening guy, and I'm going to listen to you for 30 seconds or something and reflect and just make them feel heard. Okay. And I see it's a negative. I don't know the time. Okay. I'm fine.
Now is perfect. You're amazing. Thank you so much, Bill. Communicating through emotional and cognitive challenge is a challenge, and addressing the needs is such a powerful gift of hope. Experience and structure to address those feelings needs are a large part of why I love the empathy circle practice and movement. And I think healing the world 3 to 5 minutes at a time would be an excellent t-shirt.
Thank you. I think so too. I'm workshopping it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Alyssa Strover. Alyssa is a product manager on social media impact tech with a roundabout route via professional dance and data science, but always guided by empathy.
And I'll just mention that Alyssa is not here. She sent the recording, so I'm going to play that recording. And here we go. And hopefully the audio is loud enough. Holler if it's not.
I hear no audio at all right now.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's always when you share, you got to remember to click those two buttons. Okay, thanks for that.
Hey everyone, I'm Alyssa Stover. Sorry I couldn't make it today. I had a conflict and also it's my baby's first birthday, so it was just a perfect storm of not being able to come live. But I really appreciate the opportunity to record this in advance. Happy to share my thoughts and also follow up with anyone who might have questions individually anytime. So today I'm going to talk about how empathy circles really changed my life, not just on a personal level, but even a professional level. And it really started for me when I realized that there's a moment in every conversation when you realize the other person isn't really listening to you. Maybe they're nodding, maybe they're making the right sounds, but you can tell their mind is somewhere else, probably preparing what they're going to say next. We've all been on the receiving end of this, and if we're honest, we've all been that distracted listener too. And I certainly was. So I really started noticing that this was happening. I realized that I wasn't being a great listener, but I didn't know how I might get better at listening. I thought empathy might mean putting myself in other people's shoes, and I was really wrong about that too. We've all had those conversations when we felt completely unheard, where that other person was clearly just waiting for their turn to speak. But what if I told you that learning to truly listen, not just to hear, but really listen, could transform every relationship in your life and even your career? So today I want to share how discovering empathy circles didn't just change how I communicate, it fundamentally transformed my relationships, my work, and honestly, my entire approach to just being a human. The story starts at UC Berkeley, where I was a neuroscience student trying to understand how the brain works. But despite studying neural connections all day, I was struggling with the most basic human connection of actually listening to people. I knew I wasn't great at listening. Like I said, I could really sense it, that restless feeling when someone was talking and the way my mind would wander, how I'd find myself preparing what to say next instead of really hearing what they were saying, and just didn't really know where to go. And it's not like there's some kind of manual for how to actually listen 101. At Cal, students can create their own courses with professor sponsorship, and another student approached me with an idea that seemed both ambitious and terrifying, to create a course on empathy. And when they asked for my help, my first thought was doubt. I knew listening was something I struggled with. What business did I have in helping other people improve it? But then I had what might have been one of my only truly wise thoughts in college, which was, what better way to learn something you don't know how to do except to try to teach it? So there we were, one student, my friend, who really had a lot of skills around empathy, and I felt like he knew what he was doing. And then there was me, where I was really trying my best to contribute, trying to design this curriculum about human connection. And we were doing really intense research, reading everything we could find, when one of our students in our first semester teaching it made a discovery that really changed my life. He came across something happening right there on campus, these empathy circles led by someone named Edwin from what was called the Empathy Center. And the student introduced me and Edwin, and that was kind of it. From day one, I felt constantly uncomfortable in these circles, but really you learn the most through discomfort, and I knew that, all right, this is what I had been searching for. This was how I was really going to become better at listening. And the concept seemed almost embarrassingly simple. People sit in a circle, you take turns speaking, you take turns listening. There's no advice giving, there's no problem solving, you're really witnessing for others. And I was pretty skeptical. Like I said, it was very awkward. It felt very uncomfortable at first to just reflect back what I heard. And I was wondering, how could something this basic create meaningful change? It felt so small. But I was also really desperate to become a better human being, so I just sort of stuck with it. I felt like this was a way forward. I didn't know where it was going to lead, but I felt like I was making some kind of progress. And I showed up with all my usual defenses. I was prepared to help, to fix, to offer solutions. And after all, isn't that what we're supposed to do when someone shares a problem? You just solve it, right? But Edwin and the other facilitators were very clear. My job was not to problem solve. It was just to listen and reflect back what I heard and to be present with whatever the speaker chose to share. Was it simple? Yes. Was it easy? No. And as I sat there fighting literally every instinct to jump in with advice or relate back to my own experiences, I began to notice something I'd never really seen before, which was what happens when people feel truly heard without judgment or interruption. And within my first few sessions, I watched people really light up when they felt genuinely listened to. And that's when the first profound truth hit me, which was that most people just want to be heard. And I realized I'd been doing what most of us do in conversations, listening to reply and not to understand. My mind would race ahead while they were still speaking, formulating advice, crafting my clever counter-arguments, or just waiting for my turn to talk. But in empathy circles, with no opportunity to respond or fix or solve, something really magical happened. And when I truly listened, not to judge, not to help, people would often have their own breakthroughs right there in the moment. I just had to listen, and they figured it out on their own. They didn't need my solutions, they really just needed my presence. And here's where it got really more interesting to me. This experience forced me to confront how wrong I'd been about empathy itself. I think since I was a kid, people would teach me, and I think this is usually what people are taught, which is to put yourself in that other person's shoes. And I think there's some value to that concept, but we tend to be really bad at doing that, because when you put yourself in someone's shoes, a lot of the time you're just projecting your own experiences or values or reactions onto their story. You stop really seeing them, you see yourself in their circumstances. But real empathy requires something much harder, which is setting aside everything you think you know and creating space for someone else's truth to emerge. And time and again, I was really surprised by how wrong my initial impressions were when I would listen. So the colleague who seemed really angry was actually scared. The friend who seemed to have it all together was really lonely. The family member who I just did not get was operating from a completely different priority than I imagined. And I realized that when you really listen, you will be surprised by how much you assume and how much you get wrong. So armed with all these insights, I started experimenting in some of my personal relationships, and the changes were really profound. So with my partner, instead of jumping into problem-solving mode with him, I started asking, what would be most helpful for you right now? Do you want me to listen, or are you looking for suggestions? And I feel like he really started opening up more, sharing deeper concerns that he previously kept to himself, and we really became closer and just more able to kind of go through life together. We've been together for almost a decade. We've had 2 kids since all of this happened, so it really helped us in very meaningful ways that have lasted a long time. With friends, I stopped trying to match every story with one of my own. Instead of waiting for my turn to speak, I tried getting curious. So in addition to trying to reflect back what people heard to check my understanding, I would try to probe with some follow-up questions with friends, like, what was that like for you? And I feel like my friendships really deepened because people felt more seen rather than just heard as like a setup for my own stories. And with my family writ large, some of the more frustrating dynamics began to shift when I stopped assuming I knew what motivated the more difficult relatives. Instead of getting defensive, I started trying to ask questions that helped me understand their perspective. With conflicts in really any scenario, whether it's friends, with family, and at work, asking someone to help me understand your perspective became more powerful than any argument that I could make. And the most surprising result to me was people started seeking me out for conversations. When you become someone who truly listens, you become someone people actually want to talk to. Like I mentioned at the top, these principles didn't just transform my personal life, they really revolutionized my work. So before jumping to solutions, I learned to ask, have I really heard what this person is trying to tell me? And this has helped me prevent many, many hours of solving the wrong problems. In meetings, instead of immediately sharing my ideas, I try to spend more time in discovery. What's your experience been with this? Became a really valuable question that I like to ask. When trying to design solutions, I began involving the people closest to the problems in creating fixes rather than trying to develop solutions from a distance. And this actually was the impetus for everything that I do in my job. I'm a product manager, and I shifted into it from being a data scientist because I really wanted everything that I did in data to be anchored on people closer to the problems that I was trying to solve. And when I say it transformed everything in my life, like the empathy circles really did transform everything. And like I mentioned earlier, during conflicts, like in personal life and also at work, a lot of the more difficult conversations at work became more productive when I focused on understanding different perspectives rather than trying to defend my position. And I'm certainly guilty of not being a great listener all the time at work, but I think just by trying to exercise this muscle more regularly in the empathy circles and just having these principles in my day-to-day, I've been able to come up with more effective solutions. I've had stronger team relationships, And I feel like I'm doing work that's really moving the needle on problems that matter to people affected by them. I think this really simple practice, it will surprise you too. It really enriched my life in ways I didn't expect. So I'm a lot more satisfied. When I stopped trying to be the person with all the answers, I became someone people wanted to collaborate with, and I just approached life with a much more curious mindset rather than a closed mindset. I have richer relationships because my connections became more authentic. They're built on more genuine understanding rather than assumptions. I have a better relationship to myself, so I learned to listen to my own needs with the same compassionate attention I bring to others. I actually struggled for a long time with a lot of mental health challenges, and when I really started trying to listen to others, I was able to tune into myself and kind of turn that inward, and that really helped me resolve some of those issues or go into recovery with some of those. And finally, with everything going on in the world, I think it's very easy to feel divided, but I feel like with this regular practice, I feel so much more connected to humanity. And it's a way of building bridges and finding common ground, which Edwin did with my class and with me when I was at Berkeley during a lot of the riots in 2016. And you can really see it when people are able to just stop and listen to the other side. It truly is magical. So what I want to leave you with are 2 simple principles that are available to anyone and anywhere, starting with your very next conversation, which is 1, listen to understand, not to respond. Most people just want to be heard. And 2, true empathy isn't about putting yourself in someone else's shoes. It's about creating space for their authentic experience. What do you think might change in your life if people felt truly heard when they talked to you? What might change in your relationships, in your work, in your family dynamics? The empathy circles gave me something I didn't even know I was missing. I thought it was kind of a surface level, I wanted to be more present, but it really gave me the skill to connect with other people and also myself. Sometimes the most transformative experiences can come in the simplest and sometimes awkward packages. You just have to be willing to listen. And I really challenge you in your very next conversation to try to reflect back what you heard rather than responding with your own ideas, and really try empathy circles for yourself if you haven't, and see what happens when you make space for someone else's truth to emerge. Thank you all for the time and the patience and the space for recording this, like I said. I really appreciate being part of this community and the invitation from Edwin to join the summit. Enjoy the rest of the time together. Bye.
I love that. We'll send a distance thank you to Alyssa. It really felt like she was here with us. And a happy birthday to her tiny human. I also use empathy circle skills with my husband, my 5-year-old son, my family, my friends. I'll use it every day with everyone. And we've been talking a lot about it, the empathy circle, and now we're going to do it. I am excited to introduce our Empathy Circle host, Jonathan Gordon. Jonathan has been participating in Empathy Circles for over 2 years and is a graduate of the Empathy Circle training program, making him an excellent guide to introduce the structure to all of us. Take it away. But you
You're
have to unmute
muted.
because remember we muted everybody.
You're muted, Jonathan. You're still muted.
There we go.
There
Thank you. So sorry, folks. Thank you very much, Cara. And I would like to also thank Edwin, Jana, and the Cara and the whole team that's producing these summits. My name is Jonathan Gordon, and I'm going to be spending a few minutes explaining the empathy circle process while Edwin is setting up the breakout rooms. The empathy circle process teaches mutuality, openness, and care. And it's amazing, as you do more and more empathy circles, these values deepen and lead to you to have a greater appreciation and ability to empathize. There are 4 roles in the empathy circle process. One of the roles is the speaker. And everyone in the circle gets a chance or a turn to be the speaker. And that's why we have the 3-minute timing suggestion. When you have a very large group, of course, you might use 5 minutes. 3 minutes. And if you have a small group, then you can give a little more time and use 5 minutes. So the speaker speaks in small chunks or a couple of sentences at a time. And there is an active, reflective listener who's picked, and they reflect back what they heard. And then the speaker acknowledges that they got it right. Or if the speaker doesn't think that the listener heard them correctly, they can repeat themselves. And so the whole point of this is for the speaker to really feel heard. And then the active listener takes a turn as the speaker. And so you go around the circle and everyone gets a turn. There are silent listeners, in other words, the members of the circle that aren't speaking or actively listening. They should be engaged. They shouldn't create distractions, but they listen to what's going on and they wait their turn to speak and to reflect. And it is fair game for everyone in the circle to comment on previous conversations or previous statements. So in other words, things are delayed a little. There's an opportunity to reflect and think about what people are saying. And there's just a sophistication in a wonder in the replies, because you're not doing it on the snap. You're not sitting there waiting to reply. What's wonderful about this is when we get into the circle, the process will be demonstrated by the last member of the role, which is the facilitator. And in your circle, your facilitator will have some method of timing. They may have a cell phone, or this is my little ragged timing sign. So you want to be on the lookout for when your time is up. But please carry through your thought, and the reflective listener should also reflect. Edwin, how are we doing on the timing?
We're fine.
Okay.
Just if you feel complete, let me know.
All right. Let's see. We're going to have 3-minute turns. Today's topic is what are your thoughts about our summit, and what are your takeaways from the summit, or whatever is on your mind. Now, in case of technical problems, and if you drop out of your room, please remember your room assignment and then come back in using the Zoom link, and then you'll mention to the host in the reception room what room you're in, and then you can re-engage. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to meet you in a room.
Okay, I've been creating the rooms, and we're going to be going till the top of the hour, so that's about 50 minutes. And okay, I'm almost have the rooms. Let's see. So at this point, if you're not going to be staying, it's you could drop out, because you create the rooms, and once you're in the rooms, it's really helpful if you stay in the room because if we get less than like the three, if we just get down to 3 people, it doesn't work as well as 4 and above. You'll see that I'll be in one room. Oh, and somebody's saying non-record. Okay, so I'm having to move things around here. If you're not wanting to be recorded, put NR after your name, and then I will put you in the record room. I'll be in the first room, and that room will be recorded, and then the other rooms will not be recorded. And at this point, people sort of move around, so I have to kind of juggle the rooms. I think we have 5 people, 4 or 5 people in each room. And, waiting room. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's not you, that's the, we had another. Okay, so I think we're all set. And 1 second. Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Here we're going into the rooms. I think they're all made. And see you in 50 minutes back here in the main room. Oh, I should have made it to force everybody to join, but you'll have to choose to select, to join the room.
How do you choose?
So Lou, since you need to leave early, I didn't put you in a room. Is that
okay?
Okay. You're going to be in the main room. And Tina, you should have been moved to, did you? And let me join the room. Join.
Global. And so I just say that to kind of create a awareness of my experience level. I'm happy to have been able to join today. I've kind of been tracking Edwin on Facebook, not stalking, but just kind of keeping an eye on the horizon for a couple of years, and it's never been an opportunity for me to really participate. So I've but my schedule and condition and circumstances have opened up, and I've been looking for something, and I'm in the process of registering online right now for the training. So
wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
Great.
So I know that Maša and Rosa have experience with empathy circles. I just asked Ed if he had experience with empathy circles, and I didn't realize that we were in the room with Edwin. So Edwin, you want to do the timing, or you want to be the?
I'll skip the timing, just I'm tracking all the rooms as well. So.
All right, so we'll do 3-minute time turns, and I guess yeah.
I just want to reflect that I'm hearing that Ed has a ton of experience with all kinds of empathy related work, and I am personally delighted that he is here now experiencing this variant of empathy circles.
Okay, thank you, Rosa. Thank you. Thank you for reflecting. Would you like to be the first listener? And Ed, would you like to be the first speaker?
I'm willing, yes. So
Rosa, would you like to be the first?
Would I like to?
Sure. Okay, here we go.
Sure.
So I'll show the timer unless somebody doesn't want to see.
Oh, that's super helpful. It's super helpful to see a timer. And we're doing 3 minutes?
3 minutes. And what are your top takeaways from the empathy circle process, or whatever we heard in the summit, or whatever you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I've been very happy, delighted to find this, to finally be able to attend an empathy summit, and was very, I felt very connected and aligned with everything that I've heard, especially around the emphasis or the importance of self-empathy and of reflection in the process. I'm
Keep it short.
very
Yeah. So if I may ask you to pause so that I can reflect back.
sure.
So I'm hearing that you're really happy to be here, that you're feeling connected and aligned, and that you specifically connected with the value of self-empathy. Is there more?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Um, yeah, I would say I the sense of alignment that I get in this is that it's a fit for what I've been looking for more actively for the past 6 months or so. After participating in a couple of other online programs since COVID, I haven't really found a track, so to speak, to run on. Much as I value the skills of empathy and compassion, I kind of lack the skill set for creating a structure for others to join in and participate. And so, so I'm happy to have this sense of.
May I reflect that part? So you're feeling a fit here, which is really cool. And so part of that is that you've been looking for something, and you have a lot of skills with regard to empathy, and you're looking for a structure that can help people be together in an empathic space. Is that close?
Yes, it is. Thank you. That's perfect. The thing that really interests me is the broader, more general kind of focus and the flexibility of applying the practice in different structures, partnerships, and I'm not able to cite all of those that I just heard, but that speaks very powerfully to me. Thank you.
Yeah, so we always end with reflecting back. So just to wrap up, that you appreciated seeing that this is a process that can be used in a lot of different ways, and that was something that really resonated for you. Is that close?
Thank you, Rosa. It was wonderful to be heard so thoroughly. Thank you all.
So since I was the listener, now I get to be the speaker. And Maša, would you be willing to listen to me?
Yes, I'd love to.
Great. Okay, and Jenna, okay, you've got the time. Great. Yeah, so I'm super jazzed to be here. I think one of the things I'm most noticing, in addition to it being used in different places, which I also really like, is that people are really starting to do a lot of weaving of other practices, which is something that means a lot to me because I'm a weaver. I like to blend things. And so there was a lot of people talking about NVC and people talking about IFS, which are both practices that I enjoy, and weaving them into an empathy circle container. So I'll pause there.
Thank you. I'm hearing that you're very excited to be here. You're very excited also because you heard on this summit, you realized how many people are actually using empathy circles together with other approaches. And you call this very nice, you call this weaving, how they're weaving these different approaches and that complement each other. And this really excites you because you yourself like to weave and see yourself as a weaver.
Thank you. Thank you. I was very interested in what you're doing in terms of the connections with the more than humans as well. So I'll just add that in.
And I'm hearing that you're also interested in the things where empathy circles are used in connection with non-human world.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I noticed that I'm feeling a bit of sadness come up because I feel like I've been, I've known Edwin for a long time, and I feel like I've been involved a little bit in some different ways, but I'm just feeling, I guess I'm feeling a desire to feel more connected to the community as a whole and not really sure about how to do that.
I'm hearing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, no.
Yeah, I'm hearing that you're noticing that sadness is coming up for you. And because you've known Edwin for a long time, but you're noticing that you haven't been connected so much with the community, and now you're thinking that maybe this sadness is connected to your realization, maybe a longing to be more deeply connected with this community. And at this moment, you don't know how you could do this.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard. Ah,
Thank
big
you.
sigh. That's a good place to stop. Yeah.
Thank you. Edwin, would you listen to me or will you have
Yes,
to
I'm
go?
listening.
Okay, thank you. Um, I think I will speak on both on the what is alive in me and what came up for me during the summit because I'm realizing it has merged.
So you're going to talk about two things. What's just alive in you in the moment, and also what's come up about the summit. It sounds like those two have actually merged.
Yes, I came to the summit quite stressed because when I tried to test Zoom, my computer didn't didn't find speaker and microphone anymore.
Yeah, you're feeling kind of stressed when you came because your computer wasn't working. The microphone couldn't find the speaker or the microphone, just kind of felt stressed about it.
Yes, and I was thinking, oh my God, these are the key elements. I don't even need the camera, but they need to hear me. And it was quite frustrating. And I became angry, which is quite new for me because anger is not an emotion that would usually come up for me.
Yeah, so you felt frustration about it, but then this anger came up. It's not something that comes up for you, really, anger.
And then I quickly found solution, and it was only the third computer that actually I could use. So I came to the summit quite stressed, apart from the fact that I knew that I really would like to speak in a coherent way.
So that stress, you brought that stress to the meeting, and you knew you wanted to speak in a coherent way, but you had that stress still.
And then the experience of listening to Tina sharing completely brought me back to my center. And when I listened to her, I realized, I connected with the courage, with the power, with the space, because this was my experience of her and authenticity, because she chose to speak in her way and to present her inner world in her way. And I really, I felt so much admiration for that.
Yeah, when Tina spoke, it's really grounded you, and you felt real admiration for her and her kind of authenticity.
And I felt her power and courage.
And her power and courage in her speaking.
And the other thing that came up during the summit was a thought that I will connect with you after the meeting. Because I think that, yes, it's a time that we start this empathy movement in a big way. And I have some ideas, and it really became clear to me that I get to connect also with you.
Yeah, so you were thinking about wanting to connect with me because you're really wanting to kind of work on the empathy movement and wanted to connect about that. It sounds like you have some ideas about it.
Thank you. I feel completely heard.
Okay, Jana, I speak to you. I don't know if it would be nice, maybe little dings. See
Oh,
the
I
big
changed it.
crescendo.
People didn't like the other one. Here.
Mm.
Can I just say it says that there are 3 unassigned participants. Maybe if
Oh,
you
they're hosts over.
okay.
They're
Okay.
kind of that's kind of their job, and one of them is just my second computer.
Okay.
I have some choices. Time's up. Beep.
Beep.
Beep. We'll try it.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Yeah, it feels really good. Just everybody kind of sharing, hear these personal stories. Like it's really moving just to hear all the different personal stories. It's sort of gratifying to feel like, oh yeah, we're really contributing to people's well-being.
Yeah, so you're finding the personal stories that have been shared in the summit and now to be really gratifying, and that you're really making a difference, that these circles and all of us are really making a difference in people's lives.
And Tina had interviewed me last week, for a project she was doing, and she'd also just shared a lot just about how the empathy circles had really helped her, and it was just very moving to hear that, as well as Alyssa. It's like what 8 years ago we met her at UC Berkeley, and it's something so simple. It has impacted people's lives. So yeah, it feels good.
So you're sharing that Tina interviewed you last week, and she also shared her personal experience with the empathy circles and how it has helped her and changed her, and that felt really good. And then hearing Alyssa speak also, that you just met Alyssa, UC Berkeley, a simple practice, and really she's, how what she shared is quite powerful and
Yeah. And
gratifying.
I'm looking forward to talking to Maša about, how can we work together more, even if Rosa has ideas, how can we scale up? Seems to me this kind of, kind of with the political time, there's a lot of things that are changing, and there's sort of a chance for kind of new programs, after Trump and so forth, kind of new ways of being. I think now is sort of a time where we can be building that.
And then Rosa and Maša might have ideas for how to grow the movement and wanting to be involved, and and that these particular political time and so forth, and what's going on, maybe there's an opportunity for changing the way of being and how we relate to one another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rose and I had written a book chapter. Rosa wrote most of it on for the museum, the book in museums. It was on empathy in museums, and we did a chapter on the empathy circle. So that should come out next year. So I'm kind of excited about that too.
And you're sharing that, Rosa, and you collaborated on a chapter on the Empathy Museum for the Empathy Museum book that should be coming out next year, and you're excited about that.
Yeah, one thing I do feel frustrated about is there's sort of this dialogue happening at sort of a political, social level, around empathy, with all the criticisms of empathy, and we haven't really been able to be part of that, so our voice hasn't been heard. So I'm trying to work at how do we get heard there.
What still frustrates you and motivates you is to get into that dialogue about empathy, that you have all this current critique coming up about empathy, from the radical empathy to the sin of empathy, from one extreme to another.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get in there and be part of that, and contribute to that in a big way.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thanks.
Ed, you'll listen to me? You ready?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So, it's,
so I'm sorry.
so I'll just speak in short chunks, and you just reflect, and you
Go ahead.
do however you do
Okay.
it is fine.
Sure.
You can summarize, or if you want to reflect verbatim, or however it comes out is fine.
Okay.
So yeah, really moving, yeah, to hear the personal transformation, like Alyssa, completely transformed inside and out.
That you find it's really moving to hear about all the transformation, both that it's moving both internally and externally.
Yeah, and
inside
Bob,
and out.
Yeah, and Bob wasn't the only one who had tears in his eyes when Gino was speaking.
And Bob wasn't the only one that had tears in his eyes, and I'm imagining you had them too. So
Yeah,
you didn't
yeah,
quite say that, but yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And I what else? And I, I loved what Maša shared about also connecting with animals and nature.
Yeah, that Masha's presentation when she shared about connecting with animals and nature, empathy for others, other species, and that was very connecting for you.
And not only that, but also working with a consistent group. You're not the only one. There's Rasha from India has also been doing that. And, when Rasha talked about it, I didn't really start thinking about it. But when you talked about it, somehow I thought, yeah, that's what I should also do. Not just have public events where people come and people go and kind of pop in and pop out, but also to have a consistent group. And that can be very special and meaningful.
But having a consistent group was special and meaningful for you because not just the value of exposure of people coming and going, that's good too, but having a consistent group where there can be more depth explored or more deepening.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't done with empathy circles that Maša has been doing.
All right, something that you haven't done and you want to try or want to
Yeah.
begin doing.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And I'm going to share in the chat a book. I don't know if we're allowed or not to share in the chat in Empathy Circle, but I'm going to share because this book is about nature in Bhutan and gross national happiness. And so I'll just share that and might interest Maša and maybe someone else. Thank you. I feel heard. And it's your turn to pick a speaker, and we've all had a turn, so you can pick any one of us.
I look forward to seeing your share of the book.
You have a last little bit that still needs to be reflected, Jana.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About the book.
Last piece, that you wanted to share. There was a book about that, about the pastime in Japan, about being in nature. There's a book about that you wanted to share.
It's by a Bhutanese author from Bhutan. Bhutan.
In Bhutan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Yeah. So you can pick now anyone you want. And I'll start the timer and then I'll share in the chat because I can't do both.
So am I speaking or?
Yeah, you choose a listener and we've all had a turn, so you can pick any one of us. It doesn't matter who.
Okay, to be a listener?
To be your listener.
Okay.
You can invite them to be your listener, but they'll always say yes, almost always.
Yeah. Edwin, would you
listening?
I'm looking forward to learning more about the structure and doing the training for the empathy circles, because I too am interested in creating a little bit more exposure and greater depth of training and participation to serve the value of empathy, the value that it brings to people in their personal lives and in their professional endeavors.
So you'd like to promote the value of empathy in different areas of people's lives, and for that reason you want to learn more about the structure of the empathy circle and also take the training.
Yeah, thank you. I also am interested in the culture of what appears to be the culture and of the empathy circle community. Seems to be a very good fit for me. I have the other circles that I have participated in, and the ones that I tried to create myself. were either too focused in a particular area where I didn't have a skill set or an educational background, a medical profession in particular. Then I kind of started out with that, and so it didn't, you know, I was looking for something to bring the power and joy of empathy to a more a broader, more secular kind of population, so to speak.
So the groups that you started yourself or that you took part in, they seem to be too focused, maybe too narrow, and it didn't work that well. And you wanting to check out the empathy circle community or the empathy group community to see if that sort of works, you know, for you.
Yeah, and thank you. And my original concern, I guess, around this, why I waited so long to get to dive a little deeper, was that my awareness of the practice with the empathy tents and everything was that it was political, that the focus was political, and I guess I didn't. I kind of it so yeah. So and I wasn't that interested in political issues at the time. But I see that, yeah. And I see that that's not the only focus. There's a lot of flexibility for the practice.
Yeah, you had some concerns about the empathy tent and the empathy movement that we're doing because you thought it was more politically oriented. Now you see that it's kind of broader than that.
Yeah, and certainly you're open. You seem to be, at least the organization, everything seems to be more open to having it spread, you know, not just in the political arena, although, you know, that's a great place for it, you know, so.
Yeah, you're seeing that we're really wanting it to spread widely and not just in the political area, even though the politics is good too. And that was a time to.
It was a point of entry.
Yeah. Okay, I'll speak to Rosa since she's unmuted already.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good. Yeah, the empathy movement is at least, you know, as we're doing it in the empathy tent is not taking political sides. It's trying to bring the different political sides together, and that's just part, you know, of what we're doing. You know, it's really about just spreading mutual empathy as widely as possible, making it a primary cultural value.
Yeah, so you're clarifying that you're all about making empathy a primary cultural value and spreading it as wide as possible and bringing the two different sides together in politics. That's just one part of it. And you're not picking either side. You're just wanting to bring people together in that realm as well as in others.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd love to have Democrats and Republicans both be using, you know, empathy, valuing empathy. Then it becomes a common ground. You know, if the sides have value of empathy, then you have a good starting place. And it seems to me pretty much any conflicts or issues can be sort of worked out with that common ground.
Yeah, so you think it would be a great world if both the Democrats and the Republicans were using empathy, because then it could be a common ground for exploring other differences.
And I'm really looking at, you know, how do we scale up? You know, Bill said, oh, we trained 1,000 people, but our goal is to train, you know, all 8 billion people, you know, how to take part in an empathy circle. So we're going to need something to kind of scale up, and just thinking of how we can scale up.
Yeah, you've been thinking a lot about scaling because you know you've done a lot. 1,000 people is a lot, but you're thinking about the whole world. So that's on your mind.
And, you know, I thought, well, maybe I could get an article in the New York Times, you know, about empathy can bridge the political divides. There's been a bunch of articles, you know, needs something. There's sort of this level, political, social level, that we're not sort of part of that debate. You know, the Atlantic, the New York Times, the New Yorker, you know, there's sort of this level of cultural discussion going, and how do we get sort of into that level to kind of bring our message?
Yeah, so you're wondering how you can get your message in some more high-level channels like the New York Times and things like that.
Yeah, we have Gavin Newsom here in Sacramento, so I've talked to him a couple times, and I tried to get him to do empathy circles with his opponent before, and he kind of poo-pooed it, but he has talked about, he's probably going to run for office. So I kind of see maybe something about getting connected with Gavin Newsom. I do think there are some possibilities there for, connect.
Yeah, you're seeing some possibilities about connecting with Gavin Newsom, and you've tried, and sounds like you want to keep trying.
Yep, I feel heard.
Cool. Jenna, would you be willing to listen to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, well, I want to start by saying that I'm celebrating. I just turned 64 a couple weeks ago, and I'm a pracademic, so I was a practitioner for about 20 years, and then I went back to school and I got a PhD a couple years ago, and I just had my first peer-reviewed article out, and I just put that link in there. And it actually well, I'll pause there.
So you shared a term I'd never heard before, pracademic, and you said you were a practitioner for 20 years and you just turned 64, and happy birthday. And you just 2 years ago got your PhD, and you just got your first peer-reviewed article that you're sharing with us, and you're excited about that.
Yeah, I am. And one of the things is it's on the research that I did for my dissertation. So it's the facilitators in Austria that are facilitating these mini publics are using dynamic facilitation, which is its own practice. However, dynamic facilitation does a lot of active listening. I'll pause there.
So the peer-reviewed article is about your dissertation research, and it's about some Australian facilitators that are using some
Austrian.
other Austrian, and it's called dynamic listening,
Dynamic facilitation, yeah.
dynamic facilitation, and it includes a lot of active listening.
Yeah. And so I ended up, this is actually just a little part of my dissertation, but I ended up really focusing on the active listening piece. And I did a big chunk of theoretical stuff in there that is really looking at what is the dialogue and the debate around empathy right now. Not so much the political New York Times kind of level of dialogue, but the academic dialogue. And so I'm just thinking that there's some stuff in there. Oh, and I do mention empathy circles in like because I'm talking about how important it is for people to learn active listening. So I mention empathy circles, but I'm not researching people who do empathy circles. I'm researching people who do dynamic facilitation.
So you even mentioned empathy circles in your article because you think it's really important for people to gain this active listening skill. But the focus of your dissertation research was not empathy circles, but it was on active listening. And you do include academic aspect of discussion of like what is empathy, and part of the empathy, the academic debate. So not so much the layperson, media, showbiz kind of anti-empathy debate, but the academic side. Yeah, maybe that.
Thank you. I feel very heard. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Maša, you listen to me?
Yes.
All right. Let's see. So, yeah, I also, Rosa spoke at an earlier summit, and I should look at it again, but I think it was Rosa and someone else who talked about conflict. And I'm interested in that, and I'm working on developing some kind of like conflict as opportunity course or program or process that includes education, tools, and the empathy circle. That's too much.
I'm hearing that Rosa spoke on the Empathy Summit in April, and somebody else also spoke on the conflict. And you have been also thinking to develop a program on the topic of conflict, to prepare materials, to include empathy circles, some other tools to help with the conflict resolution.
Yeah, conflict is opportunity.
Uh-huh. You're thinking to develop a program, conflict as opportunity.
Yeah, maybe more like I think it was Lou was talking about in the Petaluma conversations that, the understanding part precedes any kind of resolution or solving.
Mm-hmm. And today Lou spoke about that understanding precedes any kind of resolution of conflict.
Yeah, or it needs to, and it's not developed enough. So that has been like their focus in Petaluma conversations.
Mm-hmm. Or at least it needs to proceed. It needs to be developed, or at least they are trying to develop that.
Yeah. And also today, my takeaways, I loved Zak's presentation, even though his style is totally different.
And I hear that you today also loved Zak's presentation, although his style is very unique, but still you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's, the women, are more like on the intuitive, internal, transformative, feeling kind of, and his is more organizational, business oriented, plan oriented, and model oriented. But I still loved his presentation. Uh, I loved, I mean, first of all, dialogue, and inclusion of all views.
I'm hearing that you loved Zak's presentation because he was compared to maybe women speakers who are more intuitive, went more introspective. He was much more outside oriented, had a structure, had a business idea. Practically, he illustrated practically how this would look like in practical life, and you really enjoyed his presentation.
Yeah, that it's inclusive of all the views.
Because it is inclusive of all the views.
Yeah, and very practical.
Very practical.
Yeah, thanks. I feel good.
Thank you. Ed, yeah? Ed, would you listen to me?
Yes.
Thank you. Listening now to, I don't know, somebody, but I remembered one thing that also came up for me during the summit today.
Listening to someone whose name you don't recall, something you remember now that something came up for you at today's summit.
Yes,
something
and
also came up for you.
Yes, and this is my observation connected to this empathy toxicity, empathy as a sin, like whole, negative washing of empathy in media. I also recognized another problem is that, like you, Edwin, noticed that people really don't understand empathy when they are describing it as a weakness.
Yeah, this in the culture that you realize that people don't really understand empathy when they see it as a weakness. There was something that you another unspoken problem that had come up that you noticed or realized.
Yes, when people on social media mostly describe that empathy is something that drains you, that empathy is something that is really not beneficial. It's more like a problem if you have it or not. And I realized that they're talking about codependency, and that's not empathy. And I was thinking this is very important issue also to address. And I was thinking I will make a video or a post on this topic also.
So when you see people speaking on social media about empathy and how empathy or being empathetic is draining, you realize that that's not empathy. They don't understand what empathy is, that is an expression of or a form of codependency, and that you're inspired or you're feeling a leading to develop a presentation that clarifies that, the core allow to create a discernment or a distinction between empathy and sympathy, which would be that codependence.
Mm-hmm. And also, I'm noticing that they are connecting this trauma response where you merge, or where you just, there is no boundary, where you're just merging with everybody. They describe this as empathy, which is again not empathy. So yes, there are many aspects that are not clear, or that maybe would be helpful to provide more clarity on that issue.
So another point that you realize about that is that people also talk about the collapsing of boundaries or the absence of boundaries, the merging of conscious, the kind of codependent collapse in relationships that would be valuable to distinguish for them in that presentation.
Yeah, thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you.
You're up again, Ed. You get to speak like your listener.
Okay, going back. Okay, I'm catching on. I'm catching the bus. I'm chasing the bus here, but put me in, I feel so. I feel very.
Who are you speaking to?
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. Let's see. How about Janet? Could you listen for me? Thank you. So I'm feeling very safe in this room in terms of being able to be heard and be accepted and be seen. The skill level that you and the focus and that you bring that you bring in this group. I feel so safe. It's embarrassing. I could think of myself in the past. I would be intimidated by all of the skill levels and experience levels here, but in fact I don't. But want to. Yeah. So I think maybe saying that out loud will help me let go of some of the butterflies about that.
So first of all, earlier you said you're catching on, you think, and to how this goes, and you feel very safe here, even though in the past you might feel intimidated by the different skill levels, but you see that this practice is, maybe you didn't say this, but doable, and you described it as butterflies, and you said that by sharing how you feel, like maybe that'll help you let go of I don't know, any discomfort or safety.
Yes.
Not safety. Yeah.
Yes. Very much. Thank you. And that is working. That's very good. I appreciate that. I was I'm surprised at how much alignment I'm feeling in this. That the conversation that about empathy and sympathy is something that I've confronted for some time, and I speak to it occasionally with personal friends and publicly in social media too. So I'm just really seeing a lot of values alignment, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this community group.
And you're feeling in alignment with what you're hearing, and a sense of connection that you in private conversations and in social media, you yourself have talked about the difference between empathy and sympathy, and you are looking forward to learning more about this community and learning more, and you feel that you share common, I don't know, values and interests. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel very heard and seen, and I'm feeling warm. So,
and you're feeling heard and seen and warm. I would miss a reflection. Rosa would be on my. Rosa would catch me. Edwin, will you listen to me?
Listening.
Yeah, really lovely. I love the empathy circle.
Yeah, I just love the empathy circle.
Yeah, it's a really wonderful thing. When I joined the empathy circles, you know, I'm sure you've heard me say that Kathy tricked me into joining the training.
So you're sort of joking that Kathy tricked you into taking part in the training. You didn't know what you were getting into.
No, she said she needed facilitators for an empathy circle for the Peace Alliance. And would I take the training and, you know, facilitator training? She was looking for volunteers to take a facilitator training for something that I had no idea what it was. And I just volunteered, and I had never done an empathy circle, but I already had committed to the training.
So Kathy got you to volunteer. She needed facilitators. So you didn't even know what you were getting into when you took the training.
Yeah, and then when I was taking the training, they said, repeat it 4 times. And I'm like, what? Like, and anyway, here I am 4 years later.
Yeah, it's like to become a trainer, you have to do it 4 times. It's actually 5. Yeah.
5 times, repeat it 4 times.
Oh, you have to repeat it. Yeah. And here you are, you're a trainer now. Didn't know what you were getting into.
Yeah, I really, it's really precious. And yeah, I can see this going in all the directions that are shared. And I'll just keep it short because I already had a turn. So thanks.
Yeah, you can see it going in all these different directions, this work. And yeah, you've had plenty of time to speak, so you're gonna keep it short. And I'll speak to Maša, since I don't think I spoke to you yet. Yeah, the definitions I've just seen, you know, like you're talking about, there's all the information is out there, but somehow we're not able to get it out in a coherent way somehow, you know, about definitions and so forth. So that's kind of my focus, and now is trying to get that articulated.
I'm hearing that you're trying now getting out, articulated all the informations and definitions around empathy, because right now there is a lot of talk about it. It's
Confusion. Yeah, it's just a lot of confusion. And, you know, it's so I'm just calling it the holistic empathy. I hope it can really catch on, you know, to kind of be clear on the different parts of it. And this whole affective cognitive empathy, you know, definition, that the academics has sort of created, they've just kind of put everything together in a hodgepodge. I think it's really inhibiting kind of the work, you know, creating a movement.
I hear that there is a lot of confusion around empathy, and you're trying, you like the name holistic empathy, and you hope it will catch on, because all this scientific, cognitive, affective empathy, it's in your experience, it's doing the real empathy actually disservice, because it's just compartmentalizing this that actually really is a complete holistic process.
Yeah, and it's just creating confusion. And I think what Carl Rogers' work was just, you know, really great foundation, but somehow it's gotten his, you know, basic empathy, you know, definition. It was practical, you know, it's based on active listening. You can experience it instead of get lost in all kinds of theoretical, you know, concepts. So I think it's just a great foundation.
Yes, there is so much confusion around empathy. And I hear you that Carl Rogers set a great foundation for empathy about with this basic empathy, what it is, but now it just somehow lost, what we have now somehow lost the contact with initial.
And a lot of the criticisms I hear from the political left, right, or whatever, the phenomenon that they're criticizing, I agree with the things that they're having problems with. The only thing is I don't see that as empathy. So, how to be able to clear, and I've invited all of them, all the critics into, dialogue, and a lot of them won't talk with me for some reason.
And the comments that you hear from left and from right around empathy and what are the problems, you realize that they're not really talking about empathy. And when you're trying to connect with them to explain, they're really not responsive.
And I feel heard. And we only have about 2 minutes left. So maybe want to open it, just any comments or just open discussion, Jana?
Sure. Maybe start with Rosa, because you haven't had a turn in a while. If there's something you want to say first.
Well, I guess there's one more link I want to put on there. I'm doing a combination of dynamic facilitation and empathy circles and NVC, and I'm calling it co-creating desired futures. And it's some friends wrote a screenplay about how we get from here to a positive future, and it involves people and communities starting to do little gatherings about how to make their neighborhoods better. So anyway, it's a fun thing. So I just thought I would share the link.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Now we can talk out of turn, and there's no one's going to reflect, and whatever you want to say, how this was for you, or anything else you want to add.
Yes, I'm happy. I'm feeling complete, and I'm just yeah, a lot of what I heard. So when I heard Edwin talk about Carl Rogers, I'm not a student of Carl Rogers, and I'm certainly not a scholar, but my understanding that he posited 2 basic needs of belonging and significance, to which which I'm not aligned with. I think he got it right on belonging, but significance is a strategy to meet other needs. And so I think he was only half right. Maybe that's why in my vanity, I didn't bother to read any more about him. But I know he created a lot of good, valuable insights as a pioneer in this kind of work.
Thank you. Maša? No?
I don't know.
So we got our little sign that we can leave the breakout room, but we don't have to leave right away. It will automatically take us out in a moment.
Got 40 seconds for any comments.
Well, just thank you, everyone. It's been a real pleasure. Maša, it's been a pleasure to meet you. And
Yes,
Ed.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Rosa, we will connect. I will write to you, okay?
Yeah, and Edwin, yes, let's definitely be in touch. And John as well.
Yeah, I love all the work you're doing, Rosa. Just keep persevering. Just that's what it takes, right? Just perseverance. Eventually, we outlive everyone else. All the other
last man standing.
Yeah. Okay. See you.
Heard more than my head will. So leading from the heart instead of the head.
Thank you both. Thank you so much. Welcome back, everyone. You have now empathy circled. Your empathy circlers. How do we feel?
Hey, Kate.
So I think
everybody come back?
Jonathan's going to be calling on people for our debrief.
Thank you, Edwin.
Wake up.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I'd like each person to take, I believe, what are we allotting a minute?
30 seconds.
30 seconds to talk about your experience and just share with us how things went. I'd like to start off with Kathy Key. Would you tell us how you feel?
I feel very heard and very excited about the possibilities that empathy circles offer.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Kate, would you like to share with us?
Sure. I am so glad I was here today. I feel that the combination of both the learning from the speakers and then the practice of the empathy circles themselves was just such a wonderful balance. I learned so much, I felt so much, and I'm just very grateful that I was a part of this today.
Well, thank you, Kate. Bob, could you share with us your experience, Bob Brown?
What a joy and a treat to be with people who are empathic and compassionate and kind and loving. It's a great hope for the country. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Bob. Ed Halloran, would you share with us?
Yes, Jonathan, thank you. I'm feeling joy in the sense of contentment, not the sense of ecstasy that I think sometimes we may think of joy as, but in a sense of contentment, a warmth, a sense of belonging, and acceptance from my participation in the empathy circle. And I have one question, and that as I'm applying, the process of applying for the registering for the circles, does this count as an empathy circle? Have I now attended an empathy circle? So,
yes.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Shaila, would you share with us your experience?
Yes, Jonathan. I first of all want to thank all the speakers for sharing their wonderful wisdom with us. I've been a little rusty in the practice of empathy circles for a while due to personal reasons. It felt wonderful to be part of the group, and it felt wonderful to be thrown in at the last minute as a facilitator for my group. So, I enjoyed my time today.
Well, thank you very much. Rosa, can you share with us your experience?
Hello, Jonathan. Very nice to meet you. Very nice to see some familiar faces here, and especially delightful to see some new folks. Total heartfelt welcome to everybody who's here for the first time. I'm so glad you have found your way here, and thank you to the speakers, especially Zak and Tina. I was very moved in very different ways by both of your presentations. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome for them. Maria?
I also want to thank everybody for being here. It was really inspiring, especially about how important it is to be authentic, to be in touch with ourselves and show up to each other. It was really beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Alma?
Hi, Jonathan. You probably don't remember me, but it's nice to see you.
I think yeah, go on.
Okay. I just want to say that it was a wonderful opportunity to be able to speak from the heart and to connect with 3 other soulmates in this world. So it was awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Alona, would you share with us?
Yeah, I can just say thank you very much on the whole session. It was very inspiring for me, this experience of diverse group of empathy. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you. Sandra? Okay.
I was really glad to be here and glad that I'm in Europe, in Ireland, and it was lovely to have it so that I could be with it in a full-hearted way. And it was great to re-engage with empathy and some of the people that I'd trained with again, and all the presenters were just, it was heartwarming to sort of reconnect and deepen my passion again for contributing in some way into the empathy circle. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you for sharing. Jean, would you like to share with us?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone, our presenters and my circle. You know, I was really angry earlier today, and I'm happy to say that I'm really not anymore.
Well, thank you. Quanta, can you share with us? Hi there.
Well, it's wonderful to be here with all of you. My heart is filled with love and my mind is relaxed. As you see in the picture, my head is following my heart. Thank you.
Wonderful picture. Thank you very much. I have AB. Would you like to share with us? Speaker.
Yes, thank you. So I'm very thankful for all the speakers today speaking, sharing their knowledge. And also I'm very thankful for Edwin to create all this movement that I hope that many, many more people can learn. And I'm also thankful for the 3 other people that shared the first empathy circle with me. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you for your comment. Kathy, would you like to share with us? Kathy Key?
I already did.
Okay. Now, do I have enough time to go through some of the trainers and some of the speakers, Edwin?
Yeah, I think we do. Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's go back with Sally LaFaux. Did you get a chance to speak?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I just really I love the empathy circles that we had afterwards because it helped me process everything that I was learning in the training. I mean the presenters. That was just perfect. I mean, it was not only did I get to understand better, but I got some kindred souls to relate with, and every part of me is feeling alive and full of heart. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally. Zak, would you like to share with us?
It's been a few months since I've seen most of my friends here, and so that like feels really, really good. So good to see you all, and hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Okay. B, did you have a chance to speak?
No, but I would love to say
okay,
that
good.
I think this is the most wonderful combination of learning and being heard and connection. And empathy circles are one of the best parts of my life. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Bill Fuller, would you like to share with us your experience?
Oh, it was great. Besides a little performance anxiety about being a speaker, and it was just great. It flows so naturally. It's a big part of my life, and it enhances my life. And I was really, blessed to be in a circle with, 3 other lovely women who I got to know a little bit more. What a great day. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill. Jana, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, this is a really lovely summit. Thank you so much. Thank you to the speakers. And I was really moved also by, quite a few. And you can listen to the recording of our breakout room of who I shared and found memorable, Zak and Tina and Maša. And it's wonderful to see the familiar faces that I haven't seen in a long time, even though we don't get to be in a breakout room together. Really wonderful. Thank you so much for this community. I love this practice.
Thank you very much, Jana. Ingrid, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, I loved reconnecting with Zak and be in the circle and to get to know somebody from Germany. And so for me, the whole summit is kind of yes, there's the learning and there's the experience, but there's also, for me, there's also really the community, this feeling that this is where I belong, and seeing people again and seeing the growth and seeing new people come in that I almost like best of all. There's so much to love, but that's a part that I very much treasure. Thank you all for coming.
Could I have Maša? How was your experience?
Yes. I mean, I love empathy circles and empathy summits. And I just realized, because I wasn't here in April, that how much I missed this experience of feeling connected and to feel the power of the group with the same values, with the same aspirations. And I think it's so important that we have this feeling that we as connected whole can really start making a big difference in the world. So thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Let's see here. Tina, how was your experience?
Thank you, Jonathan. I just want to say thank you to Edwin, team, everyone that made this summit possible, the speakers, and all of you. Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here, and I love this experience. I couldn't have spent better time today than spending it with everyone here. I loved our circle. We were tearing down the facade, and it just felt really good, a place of belonging. And so I can't imagine my life without empathy circles. Thank you.
Well, so good to see you here today. And thank you so much for your words and presentation today. Daniel, would you like to share some thoughts?
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed this whole day. It was fantastic. And thanks, Edwin, and the whole team put this together. I know it's a lot of work. And I think the empathy summits, you know, I wish that all people who do empathy circles would see the summits as the place for all of us to come together and get a sense of all the people that are involved with this. So that's something I'm going to put out, you know, because I think it would be great to have like screens and screens of people filled with people, you know, at some point. And we have a particular event coming up for Carl Rogers' birthday in January, where we put out a bigger call, sort of worldwide, all the empathy circle people come together, let's do this. So like just starting to ring a bell around that.
Thank you, Daniel. Jana, did I give you a chance to do a?
You did.
Okay, and did I? Now, our host, Cara Jean, how was your experience?
I have so many takeaways from today that I am going to deep dive into later, because I am feeling both tired and tired and empty, but not like in a drained way, in like a open and spacious kind of way, that I am so grateful for this community manifesting in my world. And due to my own tech challenges, I got to have a little mini empathy circle, which was wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. I hope I got everyone. I know Edwin's going to, I'm going to turn it over to Edwin in a moment, and he'll do his closing report and how. But I had a wonderful time today. I was a little nervous and a little challenged, but I just love the spread of the topics, from self-empathy to political activism. Today, this summit had a wide girth. And with that, Edwin, how was your experience, and what do we do next?
All right. Yeah, I love these events, just to see what everyone is working on. And you see all these different projects people have. There's empathy circles all over. You don't even know about them. And this is a way we can come together and see that there's a larger community. So kind of feeds me, gives me energy, and keep working, on building this movement. Really, I think we can transform, the world with mutual empathy, and that's what my hope is. Gives me meaning in life, kind of, yeah. And gives me community as well, and friends, a lot of friends. So what we want to do is just gonna share what's coming up next. I mean, there's a bunch of next steps, and the first thing is you can save the chat, so you'll have the links. There's 3 buttons, down at the chat somewhere where you can click, and it does the save of the chat, so you can have all these links, or just go to one of these links, and there'll be other links, going back, leading to each other. So they're kind of, everything's cross-linked. So if you go first if you couldn't click on this feedback form, you did your feedback, verbally, but if you could write it down, just click on number 2 is the feedback form. Just click on that. And then you can just give us any feedback, and especially if you want to be a volunteer, which I'll mention in a minute, we can click there. You can add your name for that. 3 is be a speaker at a future summit. So even if you've spoken before, we're glad to have you speak again on another topic. All these talks get divided into individual clips, which we then post, on social media. So it's a way to just keep getting the word out. Each post, people can see, they can learn something about the empathy circle. They can see there's a whole community behind it. And and also, kind of promote your own kind of empathy projects through it. And if you see those, please do those posts, do repost those. Number 4 is our next Empathy Summit is Saturday, October 4th. And this one is going to be on how do we build the holistic empathy movement. It's not focusing on the empathy circle, but kind of the bigger movement sort of ideas that you have about how do we build a movement. And then in November, we'll have another summit right away, which will be again on the empathy circle as sort of the gateway, as an easy, first step gateway practice. And it was great to hear all the different, NVC, dynamic facilitation. I mean, there's even other processes, focusing, human-centered design, that are all based on, empathy as a core. So it's really great to hear about all those other practices as well. Number 5 is if you'd like to be a summit volunteer, we have a core team of 4 people, but we could use a couple more team members. You can click on that link, and we meet on Fridays at 10 o'clock Pacific time. You just show up, and we'll kind of teach you, explain how the process works, and get you kind of onboarded to kind of help out, facilitate these, host these. And you can see our Empathy Center website is theempathycenter.org. So that's another link. And we have online facilitation training. Next one is October. That's led by Bill Filler. So I think, Ed, you were mentioning you want to take that training. So that's the link to follow and to email Bill, to get kind of signed up for that. And let's see how here we go. Then we're down to number 7. Next Empathy Circle, that was the training. See the schedule for empathy circles worldwide. So like I know B and others, have circles that they're holding. You just click there, and it'll show you the other circles that are being held. And if you have some circles you're wanting to hold, or we give you permission to the calendar, you can add your own events there. And so that's a way of just kind of promoting, letting others know about your circles. And we can donate if you'd like to donate to help out, financially. There's a link there. And Jana, did I have something you want to say right away?
Yeah, so people are having difficulty accessing the Google feedback form. So I don't know if they say they need access. So I'm not sure if there's something you can do.
Oh, it should be. I will. Sorry, let me take a second to. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. That's
if you
good.
just if you check to make sure the form is published and make sure that when it's published, it's accessible to the public, and then it should work
Okay,
the
I
same
just
way.
put it to responder, so it should, if you want to try it, just holler if you can't access it. If you refresh the page, thanks for mentioning that.
Yep, that did it. That
It's
works.
always one of the getting these little details done. And we've got a new T-shirt thanks to Ingrid and Daniel. They've created a Printify, store so we can have T-shirts. We have our T-shirts. You can order one of those. And there's the fill the feedback form now. So I ask you to actually click on that last link because we really want to get your feedback so that it will be open. Did that work, Zach? Did you? Yeah, it worked. Yeah, okay. And so I think that's it. So I'm going to change the view here to gallery. And we'd like to end with our applause hands. So thank you so much for coming. Get a little applause hands and see you next time. And thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you and goodbye.